Kingdom nobles prized magic skills, and the Eldorado counts were no exception. Crow, El Dorado's second son, stood before a high priest holding a glowing orb. He stared in shock when the priest identified his attributes. He scans their stats and crafts pure power. Hours earlier inside the carriage, Crow sat by the window lost in thought. Seabass worried for his master, relieved to hear Crow was finally better. Seabass says they're heading straight to the capital's elder church where the count is already waiting. Reality sinks in and Crow's heart pounds. The big day is finally here. At age 12, every kid gets their skill at the church. Innate magic, each skill unique. As a noble, Crow needed a powerful offensive skill to serve the kingdom and protect his lands. Everyone craved the four great magics: fire, water, wind, and earth. Eldest brother Hawk wielded powerful fire magic, a prodigy at the Magic Academy. Another brother All mastered wind enhancement magic, championing youth sword tournaments. With his bloodline, Crow expected a top-tier skill, aiming for the absolute strongest. Suddenly, Seabass announced the royal capital was in sight. Crow bolted upright and gazed at Belfire's massive walls and towering structures. It awed him, earning its title. He eagerly wondered what skill he'd gain in this majestic place, but Erdal Shrine's reveal of appraisal and alchemy brought thick disbelief. The nobleman grew agitated, calling the skills worthless. Appraisal was unknown, and alchemy, he claimed, was for weak mages making potions. Fights for control. He paid the priest gold, demanding discretion. Crow watched in a daze. It was hush money. His father's reaction confirmed Crow's fears. His skills were a disgrace. Drowning in shame, Crow followed Seabass and his father out of the shrine, crushed by disappointment. His father left for capital business, ordering them back without him. Seabass obeyed, preparing to head home. Back in the carriage, the mood shifted and awkward silence fell. Seabass broke it, regretting Crow's skill. He admitted it was tough but looked ahead. Crow calmly agreed, stunning Seabass. Crow saw Seabass's confusion, then smiled knowingly. His old self would be overwhelmed now, but things were different. He held memories of another life, from when he was a Japanese person in a past world. Heading to the royal capital, a sharp headache hits Crow. As Seabass helps, Crow regains his past life memories and his mind instantly matures. Staring at his hands, his confusion cleared. Appraisal and alchemy didn't look weak to him at all. Frizzell let him appraise objects and see their value. Knowing its power, he jumped into alchemy next. Focusing his mind, a flood of knowledge surged in. Alchemy, the art of using mana to craft potions and transform materials. It lacked the raw power of elemental magic, but its potential was limitless. Crow saw them in a new light. Nobles wouldn't value his skills, but in practice, their estate management potential sparked a bold new ambition. Crow skipped the noble warrior path, choosing to serve his family as a village lord, managing territory and improving lives. He beamed, sharing this with Seabass, who, though shocked, was moved by Crow's maturity and clear intent. Crow asked Seabass to back his new goal. Deeply impressed, Seabass agreed. A month later, Crow faced his stern father in the grand office, flanked by Seabass and Owl. Afterthought. Father announced the church ceremony's outcome. Though sudden, he named Crow Lord of Nest Village, a rural settlement at the family's far edge. Crow was ready, but Nest Village made him hesitate. The place is totally isolated. He accepted the responsibility, surprising his father with no protest. Surprised by his obedience, Crow calmly thanked them, wishing to serve the estate and grateful to stay, using his skills. Survival in noble society was tough with his new powers. Seabass was impressed, and even playful brother All was moved by his sincerity. Relieved and amused, Crow knew this assignment, free from court politics, was perfect. Here he could finally make his skills count. Frontier life felt more fulfilling as he built his future, leaving his father secretly impressed. He smiled, then told Crow Nest Village was. It sits by the Demon's Forest, a lethal land crawling with monsters. For the risk, Owl accompanies him and stays, then immediately approaches Crow, playfully slinging an arm around his shoulders. It entrusted him the task, embarrassing Crow. He hated being bobbied, but the warmth felt good. Deep down, he loved the care, not that he'd ever admit it. Departure day arrives. Horse carriages lined up near the fountain. Crow stood behind one. Checking the luggage with Seabass, he realized they had way too many bags. Most were empty bottles, vital for his future plans. Owl approached, asking Crow if the luggage was ready. Two familiar faces stood behind him to see them off. Crow faced his older brother Hawk and father, then greeted them. Clearly moved, Hawk apologized for staying behind. Before Crow left, he reached into his coat. Hawk grabbed a dazzling fist-sized crimson gem. Crow stared, astonished by the rare magic stone's immense value. Hawk brushed it off, telling him to use it when needed. Crow accepted it with deep respect and turned to their father. Bode thanked them for seeing him off. His silent father nodded, reminding him of his duty. Seabass signaled it was time. Crow and Owl nodded and prepared to board. Before climbing in, Crow paused, faced Seabass, thanked him for everything, and said goodbye. Seabass shocked Crow by refusing to stay behind, joining him on the journey to Nest Village. Seabass, El Dorado's prestigious head butler, faced Crow's doubts about leaving but assured him Lord Fesson approved. Seabass marveled at Crow's growth in just 1 month. Despite having weak skills, Crow chose his path with absolute conviction. Moved, Seabass bowed, pledging his life to serve. Crow stood alone, stunned by Seabass's unwavering loyalty. He called his name, reached and grasped Seabass' hand. Backed by his allies, he vowed to rule the village right. Behind them, their family cheered silently. Crow signaled it was time to leave. Hawk cheered, confident in his brother's future. Their father entrusted Crow to Seabass, who bowed and promised to handle everything. As the carriage rolled, Crow eyed the week-long trip. He envisioned his future. Crow El Dorado would rise, not a warrior but a pioneer of development, known as the father of local governance. Before this, Crow stood confused as the priest revealed his skills. His father hid his face in shame, hoping dual skills meant legendary power. He stood speechless. Tension spiked as Seabass yelled for Lord Fesson to watch out. Crow realized the truth. His skills weren't what they expected, and everyone saw them as a total failure. The carriage rumbled toward its destination. Crow watched scenery from the window. Days from the royal capital, Nest Village, neared. Travel was smooth, but they'd faced surprises like bandits ambushing a merchant caravan. That moment changed Crow forever. Back from the capital, he obsessed over alchemy training. When bandits struck, he finally tested his skills, crushing the attackers and saving the caravan. His abilities proved more practical than assumed. Nearing Nest Village, a voice called from outside their carriage. They'd arrived, proceeding on foot. It was Yord, a B-rank adventurer leading the swift archipart. The three were hired to temporarily defend the village, and Crow stepped down, curious about Nest Village. But seeing the village, his hope shattered into silent shock. It lay in ruins, fences broken, proud homes collapsed or rotting, vines and weeds consuming everything. Owl, Seabass, and Crow froze. Even these veteran adventurers were speechless. Remote region's grim truth hit. Disbelief faded. They headed for the village, but Seabass saw it was a total wreck. Suddenly, a figure appeared on a rooftop. An archer aims into the woods. Moments later, a wolf pack suddenly burst from the underbrush. Wild fangs, D-rank monsters. The village was already under attack. Seabass immediately assessed it without hesitation. Crow ordered archers shoot with him, luring wild fangs from homes. Seabass and Owl flanked the enemy, striking hard to protect the villagers. Seabass protested, worried for Crow. All reminded him of Crow's recent fights. During the raid, he trusted his brother's growth, calmed Seabass, and prepped the plan as Crow used noise to lure the monsters. An eager archer cast a spell. A blazing fire orb erupted from his staff, slamming the ground, scattering debris. The blast dazed the wolves, letting Crow charge through the chaos. The wolf lunges at Yord. Crow reacts fast, slamming his hands down to trigger Earth Wall. A clay barrier erupts, blocking the wolf's strike just in time. Yord thanked him, startled but safe. Crow pondered the spell's mechanics. The wall formed from soil and magic, a practical use of his skill. Alchemy, in essence. Alchemy used equivalent exchange to turn 15 kilos of silver into 1 kilo of gold as Crow ran the numbers. Appraisal explained alchemy mixes materials, changing their nature, usually with magic. Not offensive but holds vast potential. Crow grasped alchemy's true mechanics. Magical energy served as equivalent exchange material, fusing it with matter-transformed substances freely. Earth plus magic enabled transmutation, even spells. He grasped alchemy's true essence, knowing everyone else completely missed the point. Wild fangs relentlessly assaulted as the battle raged, Seabass slashing and dodging wolves. An archer warned the massive horde would stall them, so Crow ordered all in Seabass to fall back. As they pulled back, Crow dropped, pressing his palm to the earth, activating his next spell, Refining. Earth Needle. Instantly, a forest of spikes erupted from the ground. He impaled the beasts with precision, wiping out the pack in one move. All and the archers stared in shock. Even the calm Seabass was stunned. Wiping out that many wild fangs in one hit showed massive power. Crow went speechless, stunned by beginner earth magic's devastating power. Seabass analyzed the spikes, comparing them to ground needle and intermediate spell. The news stunned Crow. He made something asterisk that big. A man approached from behind, thanking the group. He was Wagner, Nest Village's leader. Seabass stepped forward, introduced as the El Dorado family's butler, then presented Crow to Wagner as the third son of House El Dorado and new lord of Nest Village. Humbled, Wagner eyed Crow, surprised and appreciative, noting the unexpected effort to reach this remote place. Crow firm stated his reason: Nest Village was crucial to El Dorado territory and he'd bring prosperity here. Crow. Formalities over, Wagner led Crow, Seabass and Owl through the village. Walking cracked, overgrown roads, Crow scanned the area. The ruins were worse than he imagined. Wary villagers leaned against rotting walls as despair hung heavy. Crow knew fixing their homes and safety came first. He asked Wagner if wild fang attacks were common. Wagner replied those monsters rarely left the cursed forest. Lately they're appearing more often, proving the forest's balance is broken. Flightless, aggressive lalabirds infest the forest's edge in droves, their sheer numbers pushing other monsters like wild fangs straight toward the village. Low-ranked but enough to wreck the ecosystem. Crow knew something was wrong and laid out the plan. Tomorrow, All's team scouts the cursed forest while Seabass and the hunters guard Nest Village. Seabass, seeing Crow's magic fatigue, urged him to rest. But Crow, smiling, shook off the suggestion. He wasn't finished. As the setting sun glowed, Crow knelt, right palm to earth as magic surged through his hand. The ground erupted, raising a massive soil wall. Spell cast, refining earth wall. Seabass stood stunned by Crow's work. Crow planned to encircle the village with walls, creating a perimeter no monster could breach. Swift archers Yord froze. Stunned Crow could still cast massive magic after his ground needle attack. His teammate Sypha was just as shocked. Most mages would be empty by now. Crow paused, realizing. He realized something odd. Using magic daily, he never felt exhausted. Was that normal? Seabass saw they finish by sunset, so an archer suggested cooking while they waited. Seabass smiled to himself, reflecting how Crow always surprised him. As sunlight faded, Crow's mind recorded a new report: territory Nest Village, population 50, new residents Owl Sebastian, Swift Archer. They built a large earthen wall. Village safety improved. Soon after, warm sunset glow reflected off new rooftops and built walls. Finished houses lined up. Seabass and Wagner stood speechless, awed by the transformation. Seabass turned to Crow, who, unfazed, simply stated it was a villager's house, prompting Seabass to ask how such a magnificent structure built so fast. Crow explained, alchemy first solidified and leveled the ground for stability. Walls then rose from the same refined earth as the outer barrier, ensuring strength. Inside, Crow guided Seabass and Wagner. He showed the ventilated kitchen by the entrance, then the massive central room for eating and relaxing. He showed them the bedroom, its varied walls blocking outside noise. He proudly explained it used the same techniques as the village's defensive wall. Wagner, unable to process Crow's sheer scale of work, just breathed in disbelief. Stepping outside, the trio finds villagers staring at a massive tower rising over the village. A shocked crowd gathers, murmuring in disbelief. A woman asks what it is while a man guesses it's just a building. Sleek, towering modern condo stood before them. Crow felt sheepish watching them. He hadn't meant to draw this attention. He built it on a whim, but it became a multi-level condo. Whispers reached him. Wagner doubted Earth magic's power. Crow led the group to the square. Reaching the village heart, he heard children playing. The sight sparked his resolve, a square for villagers to relax, kids to laugh. Crow knelt, channeling magic through the earth. He precisely molded instructors out of the soil and wood. Earth shifted, beams snapped, and benches formed. A playground materialized with slides, seats, and climbing areas. Cuts, soon an entire stood proudly, complete. 4 words: cut, materialized, is a strong. Wide-eyed kids gasped and immediately rushed to the playground. A boy races for the slide while a girl follows, demanding her turn. Crow stepped in, making them take turns. Wagner sneaked into the slide line looking as hyped as the kids. Even Seabass was stunned, praising Crow for his genius invention. Crow accepted the compliment, embarrassed. The idea wasn't his, just remembered from elsewhere, but seeing it bring joy was enough. Soon, Seabass mentioned Owl and others would return. Crow agreed. With the plaza set, it was time to prep dinner. Evening fell, food scented the village. Smoke rose from new homes, villagers gathered at a campfire, laughter echoing through the night. He returns for the festival, shouting to a smiling Crow. Before them sits a massive mound of fresh lalabirds that Crow instantly recognizes. I nodded, assuring him this much would feed the entire village. I spotted a new barbecue and asked if Crow built it. He nodded, explaining how the lid turns the grill into a table. Call shattered their moment. Seabass approached, addressing Crow and Owl. Lalibird Yakitori handed Crow a skewer. Bit the grilled meat, savoring the flavor as everyone praised the perfect seasoning. Crow asked what ingredients All brought back. All handed over a pouch and Crow activated his appraisal skill. Contents identified. Mid-grade healing herb makes recovery potions, low-grade detoxy herb crafts detox potions, and mana compost cultivates plants. Crow looked at the night sky, satisfied these materials would boost their crops, finally showing the territory's development. Firelight flickered through the village as children played and laughed. Crow smirked as he watched. They weren't perfect yet, but they were finally moving forward. He checked the Intel Nest Village 50 residents. They'd built houses, playgrounds, barbecue, counters, tables, and homes. Unity slightly up. Far east in the sprawling Viscount territory, El Dorado held a different scene. A servant entered, announcing an El Dorado letter to the elegant noblewoman, who rose for details. Lord Crow headed for the borderlands. Rose's eyes sparked as she pressed the servant for more. At Nest Village's plaza, Crow stood before a field of dying crops. He and Wagner immediately understood. Wild farm devastated the field, meaning the village faced starvation this winter. Crow doubted even Sebastopol Dorado's wheat would be enough, and Seabass agreed it was dire. Crow saw the damage, knowing immediate action was vital. He asked Wagner about crops besides wheat. Wagner explained Nest Village cultivated pearl millet, a hardy crop thriving in dry, barren soil. Crow whispered a favor to Seabass, leaving Wagner confused. Resolved, he announced they'd stop growing pearl millet. He suggested they start farming healing grass instead. Shocked villagers wavered as doubt spread, one woman muttering healing grass in disbelief. One cried out, plan fails, village starves. Crow promised they'd still grow some wheat. Crow asked Seabass for corn prices for caravans. He estimated 100 gil. Next, healing grass was valued at 300 gil a bundle. Wagner realized they'd now cultivate valuable cash crops. Crow confirmed he already had a buyer, and as an alchemist he'd craft potions from the herbs, each worth tens of thousands of gil. A skeptic doubted the value, but Crow stood firm. Wagner questioned growing healing grass in normal fields, so Crow revealed he'd infused the soil with magic. He theorized medicinal herbs grew where monsters lived, from magic in their waste. Crow's soil analysis confirmed it. Kneeling by the dead wheat, Crow wondered if magic could empower normal plants. He touched the stalks and power surged from his fingertips. The field miraculously transformed right before the villagers' eyes. Magic fixed the poor soil, making the wheat thrive. Crow grinned, telling the villagers he could restore every field at this rate. The ruined land turned lush and green again. An overjoyed farmer calls it a miracle. A woman realizes they can grow medicine, and the village unites to start planting. Crow saw the medicinal herb field doubled. Now potions could be mass-produced. If it works, this becomes the village specialty. Hours later, a basket of eggs was placed before Crow. Shocked, he asked Al-Naysama where the eggs came from, and Al smirked, revealing his discovery to Crow. He proudly revealed Larabirds become relaxed after eating healing grass. Crow confusedly looked at him. All found Lyra birds devouring healing grass in Devil's Forest. Started laying eggs. He excitedly realized Lyra birds might lay eggs when relaxed, uncertain but promising. Yordline confirmed to Crow it was true, however unbelievable. The Lara birds relaxed and slept after eating the herbs, making egg collection easy. Intrigued, Crow asked about Larabirdex's taste. I remember that Yako sandwich from the capital. Made with these eggs and Lyra bird meat, it tasted incredible. The vivid description left Crow and the swift archers drooling. Steam filled the plaza as villagers prepped food. Crispy toast cradled gooey egg yolk and tender grilled Lyra bird, the famous ladybird Yako sandwich. Crow eyed the dish and bit in. Flavor consumed him. Utterly delicious. Crispy bread, soft egg, and juicy meat make the perfect combo. Crow ate relentlessly. Mid-bite, an idea struck. He wished for these eggs on demand. Inspiration struck. Excited, he called Seabass and Al-Naysama with urgent news. Next morning, villagers crowded the coop. A Lara bird egg dropped onto the straw. The bird chirped with lazy pride. Villagers watched in awe. One marveled at the egg, another noted the bird's lifeless eyes and relaxed demeanor. All praised Crow's victory. Thrilled to eat eggs daily, Crow smiled, saying he'd prepare healing herbs perfect timing. That morning, he and Al entered the demon forest to catch a female Laribird. He guiltily recalled Seabass's displeasure, warning him not to go himself. Crow used alchemy to build the facility, lining it with straw for the lyra birds. Now he needed a caretaker. A burly man stepped up offering to handle the birds. Crow asked his name, he replied Kentucky. Crow agreed but warned him, never eat the lyra birds. Crow held the birds, imagining their demand, hand them all over. Their dull, glassy eyes stared back as Kentucky observed, commenting that, unsettling eyes yet cute. Crow vaguely agreed to share their care. The village, a nest with 50 residents, now boasts lifeless-eyed female lyra birds as livestock with a new herbal garden and elsewhere a caravan rattles down the road. Inside, a sharp-eyed noblewoman sat calmly as her escort thanked her, still unsure if she was fine, but Rose just smiled. Her purpose was training and home was too dull. Carriage's calm shattered with a jarring halt. Passengers jolted by the sudden stop. The terrified coachman stammered. The mustache man looked out the window demanding answers. Panicked coachman shouted about a monster as snarling wolves closed in on the caravan. Mustache man panicked as monsters attacked far from the cursed forest. He turned to Rose for help, only to realize she'd vanished from the carriage. Mustache man's eyes widened in shock. Rose leapt from the vehicle, sword drawn, slashing wolves on impact. She smiled, delighted, shouting her excitement, pure exhilaration. This was what she craved, the thrill of. Deep in the woods, Crow wondered how many wild fangs hid his traps. Their parts sold for a fortune, so he littered the cursed forest with snares to cull the beasts for profit. He timed it right for a big catch, already counting his earnings. Suddenly he froze, stepping on a dead creature. Stepping on something, he asked Swift Archer about traps, but the dozens of dead wild fangs left everyone baffled until Crow spotted a lone figure ahead. The noblewoman finished the final beast with a stylish sword flourish. She dismissed the wild fangs as weak. Crow froze in shock. It was Rose, the last person he expected. She turned with a familiar grin. After years apart, Rose was ready to rumble. Rumbling, Viscount's eldest daughter and his childhood friend, a prodigy like his Alne-sama, refined her swordsmanship to become a knight. Seeing the carnage, Crow knew Rose slaughtered the fangs. He called her a battle maniac, but she just shrugged it off. Crow sighed and smiled, welcomed her to Nest Village. Back in the village, Crow spotted a familiar face and they shared a happy greeting. Steward, a bearded El Dorado merchant, led caravans between Bird's Garden and the royal capital. Crow recognized the caravan he saved from bandits near Nest Village, so he had Stewart visit them regularly to build trust. Crow thanked Stewart for bringing Rose to the village. Stewart brushed it off. Crow's help ensured their safe arrival. Soon, a new aqueduct appeared as villagers hauled water from the well. Stewart marveled at Nest Village's stunning growth. He'd heard it was a cold, poor village of only 50 residents, but what he saw now proved them wrong. Crow agreed. A month after arriving at Nest Village, the farms expanded and the villagers worked with fresh energy. A month of Crow's engineering, digging a 10 km waterway and reinforcing ground, utterly drained him, but secured daily water from the Kajis Mountains' Ujert River. He told Stewart he'd show him where they stored the goods for sale. Stewart gawked, asking if this was an underground warehouse. Crow explained potions need stable temps and humidity, plus it stored monster materials and processed goods. Inside storage, Stewart lists the loot, potions, monster parts, and gear. Crow nods and starts the count. The potion collection held 3 A-rank recovery and 120 B-rank potions. Stewart was stunned. 3 A-rank potions were an unbelievable find, leaving him speechless. Potions have 3 ranks. C rank is the common, cheap version that stops bleeding but barely restores health. B rank potions were way stronger. They stopped bleeding, healed wounds, and restored massive vitality, but their high cost meant only nobles and top adventurers used them. A rank potions were ultra-rare, reserved strictly for royalty and top-tier nobles. These legendary cures could regrow limbs and heal any disease. Nest Village's item production astonished Crow, who smiled at Stewart's shock. Stewart asked to verify the potions and Crow agreed. They tested the B rank first. A single drop turned the glass orange, confirming the grade, then the A rank made the glass shimmer with rainbows. Stewart thrilled. Tests confirmed both potions were real, but Crow already verified everything with his appraisal skill. Crow then tasked Seaboss with the rest. Stewart agreed. Business finished, Crow hit the playground and scanned the area, wondering where Rose vanished. He spotted her laughing and sliding with the kids, bonding instantly. Crow watched, relieved and happy, as Rose, holding a young girl, turned to him, her face lit with joy, praising the playground and calling its creator a genius. The girl proudly revealed Crow built every structure from walls to houses. Rose was stunned, barely processing it, but Crow modestly confirmed her stammered disbelief. Rose grabbed his shoulders, shouting that this insane craft had to be alchemy. This setup was way too advanced for a tiny village, but Crow just shrugged and offered a tour. Inside the apartment, Rose marveled at the design, asking if he built it. Crow smiled bashfully, then her tone turned serious. Hearing about Crow's skill and him leaving home had her worried. The news worried her. Crow paused, then smiled up, reassuring her his brothers were still at El Dorado. He was determined to win with his own strength. Rose saw his resolve in light and flinched. She blushed, realizing how much she'd changed since their last meeting. Crow asked about her skill, and Rose proudly revealed her wind-based physical support. Just like all Samus, she's here to master it. The skill fit her battle-hungry nature perfectly, and Chrome was just glad she was fired up. He offered a bath to wash away her travel fatigue, and Rose's eyes sparkled. She praised the village, but a flustered Crow admitted the bath was only at his house. Later, Rose's welcome party merged with a caravan social, a plaza barbecue warming the night. At sunset, Sebas handed Crow a slip confirming the steward's deal was finished. Crow took the report and scanned the numbers. His eyes sparkled at the earnings as Sebas explained it was just the profit from the salt. Crow was stunned. One A-rank potion just earned them a massive payout. Monster loot sold for a fortune, with rare bird pillows and UVs fetching the top price as Crow trailed off. Examining a product, its exceptional quality promised luxury items for nobles. Crow asked Sebas about food supplies. Sebas, inspecting crates, confirmed a large tomatoes came from Red Village, while Ragnar supplied the cheese and butter. Crow stared, awestruck at the quality and abundance of ingredients in the crates. Sebas explained tomatoes become sauce and dairy goes to the underground warehouse for freshness. Holding a tomato, Crow realized they could make that dish. Hours later, delicious baked goods aroma filled the village, making villagers drool. An arched oven blazed in the plaza. Right on time, Crow pulled his baking from the oven. A hot, bubbling Crow's special pizza emerged. He bit, savoring the incredible taste. Who'd think pizza possible in this world? Crow just built the pizza oven, realizing his month of engineering was paying off in unexpected ways. A child pointed at the oven, asking what it was, thinking it was a toy. Crow called it a pizza oven but warned it was dangerous, don't touch. A kid then asked if pizza tasted good. Laughing, Crow confirmed, inviting friends to try. The girl eagerly nodded, promising to gather everyone. Stuart burst in, drooling for pizza, while Wagner and the villagers rushed over for a bite. Crow saw the crowd, paused, then lined them up. The girl returned with a friend, and Crow instantly recognized Rose. Thrilled by the smell and buzz, Rose declared the pizza delicious and wanted to try it. Crow watched in stunned joy, wondering how life got this wild. Wasn't he a noble? Nest Village's status just updated: 50 residents, an underground warehouse, a pizza kiln, and E and B rank potions. That night outside the village, a faint cry shattered the forest's silence. A pale, lifeless body lay still as a tiny white cub wailed beside it in the dark. On a silent morning, Crow stood deep in the cursed forest once again. Checking the site again, hunter leader Carrie Sky approached, reported, wild fangs in traps noticeably increased recently. Crow explains that fewer rallabirds means the wild fangs will stop following them to the village, letting them gather and sell more resources for a win-win. Crow checked the rallabir traps next, and the cages soon appeared. Traps used healing grass as bait. Once creatures entered, their weight triggered the mechanism, slamming the entrance shut, making escape impossible. Harry Sky asked, "Start collecting the captured." Checking the traps, Crowsy spotted something strange along the line. He wondered if it was another wild fang trap. But looking closer, he realized he was wrong. Inside the trap, a small, fluffy white cub slept, clutching a bone. Sky had never seen a monster carry like it. Its size and features screamed young. Crow activates appraisal. The cub whimpered and results flashed. Lavini Fang's female child, a rare secondary ice wolf from snowy mountains. It matures into a rank A monster. Legend says upon death it duplicates itself. Crow briefed the hunters, and Karska's face turned grim. He heard of the Lavini Fang from the guild, a legendary ice wolf. No one who saw it ever returned alive. Hunters whispered, terrified by the beast. Crow realized if this was just a cub. He hesitated. The appraisal revealed it duplicates on death, meaning its parent likely died nearby. The silver cub cried up as Crow touched its head, knowing if released it would struggle, but if it lived it could become a. Crow grabbed the silver cub and ignored the hunters, heading straight for Nest Village. Hunters shocked, Carrie Sky warned it was a deadly rank, a monster. Crow knew the danger, planning to consult Sea Bass before deciding, but one question burned: why was it in the cursed forest? Its home was snowy terrain. He hoped to spare its life. Back at the village, tense villagers circled the body. A massive white carcass. Crow stared speechless at the massive, 7-meter form. His brothers welcomed him back, but a stunned Crow asked about the corpse. He hauled the cursed forest beast back for materials. Crow stared silently at the massive demon corpse. Looking at the sleeping cub, he realized the dead wolf was its parent. Suddenly, Sea Bass appeared and spotted the cub. Sea Bass froze. It was a baby Levine found. He quickly realized the giant legendary creature they found was the cub's parent. Crow confirmed Sea Bass's fears. They couldn't abandon the cub. He wanted to raise it in the village, leaving Sea Bass facepalming in defeat. Crow had to report it to Lord Pheasant. Crow was surprised. His father, Sea Bass, explained, since the cub was an A-rank monster, decisions about its future and the parent's corpse must go not. Crow sighed as things turned deadly serious, doubting if raising monsters was right. Ralabird was a monster, but the Levini Fong was in a different league. The cub jolted awake. It leaped from Crow's arms and bolted, leaving Crow shouting and giving chase. Outside, the village square bustled with villagers cooking and eating. Kentucky was eating when the cub rushed him. Seeing the white wolf stop, he muttered in confusion. Crow caught up. Cub lunged and devoured Kentucky's food whole, shocking them both. Rose pushed through the chaos with a drumstick, demanding answers. She blasted Crow for ruining the meal but stopped cold when she saw the cup. Her drumstick dropped. Eyes sparkling, she scooped the small creature, mumbling, enchanted by its cuteness. Crow watched her hold the cub, surprised the swordswoman loved fluffy things. Rose turned and asked what it was. Crow revealed the red cup came from a Lavini Fong. Rose froze, absorbed it. He shrieked in shock. Why was a monster here? Crow explained he found it in the demon forest. Cradling the pup, Rose asked if the dead demon forest creature was its parent. Crow agreed. Rose nodded, the pup now parentless. Crow added he'd care for it for now. Rose's eyes lit up, asking to name the red cub from a Lavini Fong. She raised it high, shouting its name. Levi-chun. Crow smiled, watching her. Lavi's name made sense, a Levini Fong. Simple, but it worked. Rose happily fed the pup endless plates. As plates piled high, Crow grumbled at its massive appetite. Kentucky panicked. Ralabird meat's almost gone. Crow turned, shocked. The cubs just smiled, crying happily. Chapter 6 starts. Rose watched Crow sleep past noon until he sat up and groggily mumbled her name. He yawned, realizing he always oversleeps without Sebastian. Yesterday, Sebastian left for Bird Garden in Stuart's carriage. Report to Crow's father about Ravi. Crow also asked him to explain the A-rank potion. Sebastian returns in a month with Stuart's caravan. Crow asked Rose if she went to the demon forest with his owl-like brother. Rose smiled, wanting to go, but he stayed behind to look after Ravi. Crow offered to make lunch, citing afternoon work. Rose asked what kind of work he had. Crow's building a reservoir and invited her to help. Rose eagerly agreed to join him, hyped to see his alchemy in action. While cooking, Crow asks how long she's staying. Rose says she's staying until the next sword tournament. Crow realized the tournament was next summer, so she'd stay almost a year. Her dedication impressed him. Rose praised his cooking as she watched. Crow was grateful Rose made hunting so much easier. Then he popped the lid and announced dinner was served. Amused, he watched Rose and Ravi eagerly eye the food. He served and Ravi yelped happily. Later at the reservoir, Crow, Rose, Ravi, Wagner gathered. Wagner thanked Crow for project help. Crow replied, "Count on me." Rose, shocked, asked if he'd do it alone. She sat down, noting the massive area would take forever. Crow agreed, but he knew his alchemy could handle it. Kneeling, he declared they'd dig a 5-meter hole, 1 meter deep at the water's edge. Hand on ground, he activated his transmutation, chanting, refining, excavate. The ground rumbles as massive rocks explode upward. Mounds piled across the site. Excavation finished instantly. Rose stood speechless. Crow noted the excavated material would reinforce the river embankment. Next, they solidified the ground, preventing water seepage. Crow focused energy, activating the next transmutation, refining air cannon. Wind blasted forward. Rose stared in awe, realizing this too was his alchemy. Crow's air cannon was his second technique, learned after the mud wall. Abundant air transmuted anytime made it versatile. He'd used it to solidify the village foundations, making it essential for every build. It proved useful in combat. He used the air cannon to attack bandits raiding the steward's caravan. He fired again to finish it. He wiped his brow then looked into the massive hole he just blasted. Rose was astonished, never seeing alchemy in action. Crow's speed and scale of alchemy stunned her. She asked his next move. Crow planned to link the reservoir to the river to store water. Rose struggled to grasp the scale. He dump excess water back to prevent flooding and connect a drainage system. Rose called the plans troublesome but knew Crow would instantly complete them. She praised his incredible alchemy skills, certain he'd succeed even in noble society. Crow smiled. He loved his life, but seeing the villagers smile more each day was his true joy. His words stunned Rose. He'd changed. She smiled, saying she liked who he'd become. They restored the reservoir and upgraded village sewage. Crow asked if he'd changed much. Rose replied the old Crow was far cheekier. Thanks to him, villagers now bathed at home and had flushing toilets. Crow used slimes for waste treatment. They devour the sewage and release pure water. Wagner praised Crow's hard work. He whispered that the village heard the construction, so Crow apologized and told him the work was finished. After hearing about the new baths and toilets, Wagner cheered, calling it the best news ever. Ravi tensed, leapt from Rose's arms and howled. Rose asked what was wrong while Crow saw the pup barking at the cursed forest. A distant rumble shook the land. Black-horned beasts growled from the forest shadows. Black beasts loomed in the distance. AOL peered through his telescope, sensing trouble. A black buffalo herd charged toward the cursed forest. Their thundering approach numbered over 1,000. The herd charged, smashing barriers and trampling everything. Monsters caught in traps. I'll accept that for now. Trapped monsters distracted creatures, holding them back temporarily but not for long. They'd reach Nest Village soon, taking command. All ordered the swift archers. Sypha would unleash her ultimate fire magic, then Nelsis would escort her back and alert Kuro. Forest fire was a risk, but all insisted stopping the black buffalo came first. Plus, obvious magic would signal Kuro something was wrong. Asked for his plan, Il drew his sword with resolve. He stayed to fight, his enhancement magic matching the herd's speed, trusting Kuro to buy them time and protect the village. Crow's squad was still clueless. Ravi barked furiously. Rava's calm felt wrong, then a massive explosion rocked the forest. Alarmed, Rose questioned the source. Stunned, Crow recognized the fire magic, likely Sypha's. Rose sensed a major threat in the magic, so Crow ordered Wagner to find any villagers left outside. Crow struggled to process as swift archers burst from the forest with grim news. They yelled for Crow to escape now. Concerned, Crow asked for an update. Yord explained a massive black buffalo herd swarmed the cursed forest, putting Nest Village in grave danger if it continued. Black buffalo are basic cattle monsters, but in a pack they're a nightmare. Over 1,000 strong, they were a high-ranking threat. Yord told Crow all stayed in the forest, fighting the herd alone to hold them off, fulfilling his mission. Shock silenced everyone. Rose couldn't believe Owl was fighting alone, but Yord ordered them to evacuate the villagers while he bought time. He knew the village would be destroyed but insisted surviving villagers could always start anew. The swift archers reluctantly agreed, heavy-hearted, believing Crow's leadership would rebuild it. Rose watched Crow, who stayed silent and lost in thought. He realized people make the village, not buildings, and he could rebuild. He'd survive, but the villagers. They'd endured constant monster attacks. Now, after finding peace, losing it all again would devastate them. The thought crushed him, but Crow knew saving the village would restore the people's hope. Crow recalled the swift archers' evacuation order, so he told Yord to lead the villagers to safety. Yord agreed but questioned Crow's plans. Crow stood his ground to face the black buffalo alone. The declaration stunned Yord's team. Rose cut Crow off and volunteered to stay. Crow was worried, but Rose insisted on repaying the villagers. She couldn't leave without giving back. Crow poured his heart into building this village. She wouldn't let monsters destroy it. She punched Crow's shoulder, insisting they didn't train this hard just to run from a fight. Crow appreciated her loyalty and support. He asked Yord if the Grand Needle technique works against the black buffalo. Yord noted the creature's tough hides, leaving Crow to wonder what to do if his strongest magic failed. He asked Rose for stronger earth magic, but she stopped as a new idea hit her. She remembered a picture book spell, summon a large magic golem. Yord warned golems need rare magic stones, but Rose laughed, knowing they'd never find one in this remote area. To their surprise, Crow revealed the stone existed here. At the field, Rose confirmed Crow's gem was a crimson magic stone he got from Hoksama before reaching Nest Village. Hoksama anticipated this moment. Rose doubted Crow could build a golem, asking why he chose this spot as he knelt in the field. Crow realized the field's magical soil was perfect for crafting. Rose absorbed it, curious but disbelieving. Crow doubted the plan would work. He pushed his doubts aside. He had to make this work. Since Nest Village, he'd relied on alchemy, especially his most practiced skill, earth magic. With vast experience and high-grade red magic stones, Crow meditated to craft, envisioning a giant moving like his own limbs. A colossal humanoid figure, the ultimate golem, forged by his skill and imagination. Crafting begins as mana surges, shattering the ground beneath his hand. Crow tossed the magic stone, sending sparks flying. Final step begins. Drenched in sweat, he realized he'd already burned through half his magic. Before them, a massive stone giant rose from the earth, bound by magic. Humanoid limbs and glowing eyes made its overwhelming presence feel majestic. Concerned, Rose watched the towering golem at Crow's command. Deep in the woods, Owl still battled black buffaloes. Kneeling in the wreckage, he counted his kills and the time he'd bought. A towering figure appeared. Shocked, I quickly smiled confidently, certain Crow was behind it. Elsewhere he faces the massive golem. Crow doubted the construct would move, so he raised his hand to test it. Instantly, the colossal golem awakened. It burst with energy, leapt into the air. It landed gracefully, shaking the earth. Crow stood stunned. The golem moved like a robot from his thoughts. Fast, precise, and perfectly synced. Rose notes it's way bigger than a normal golem. She shouted this wasn't a regular construct, it was a giant golem. Overwhelmed, Crow barely knew what a normal golem was. He moved in and used appraisal on the creature. Analysis revealed a giant mythic golem, creator-controlled and ranked among the trunk's top-tier entities. Crafted by silver and gold, it was a high official, even S-rank among demon kings. Rose was right, it's a massive golem. Appraisal shows it runs forever on magic, but Rose warns that normal people can't just refill mana. Crow wondered why his powers were so weird. Yord and hunters arrived, astonished by Crow's formidable creation. Crow asked about the villagers. Yord reported Nelson and Sypha escorted them and hunters stayed to fight. They vowed to defend the village together, leaving Crow speechless. He thanked them, shared his plan, and they agreed to help. They prepped immediately. Hunters on the earthen wall shot arrows, hurled stones. Straw ringed Nest Village. Fire arrows into it would startle and redirect the black buffaloes. Crow eyed the massive trench guarding the village. Time was short, the trench partially complete. It still slows the buffaloes' charge while Rose pets her calm Ravi. Village hunters rushed along the earthen wall, carrying tools and supplies. They prepped footholds facing the demon forest for safer combat. A hunter on the wall called to Yord, "Preps complete." Yord told Crow everything set. Rose, Crow, Ravi braced, hooves thundered closer. Black buffaloes charged the village with overwhelming force. Rose yelled from the wall, the buffaloes were here. Crow reacted instantly, ordering the giant golem to charging in to trample the horde. Colossal construct obeyed, surged and launched into the beasts. It crashed into the herd, shattering the ground and flinging black buffaloes like toys. Atop the walls, Yord and the hunters stood frozen in shock, watching the destruction unfold. Crow saw the golem's charge destroy 50 buffaloes. Elsewhere, Owl precisely felled a beast. Rose saw him, gasping his name in relief. She handed Ravi to Crow and dove into the fight, ordering him to guard the pup. Crow warned her, but Rose, sword ready, replied confidently. She leapt into the fray. Crow glanced at Ravi, the pup's ear twitching, a soft whimper escaping. He pulled Ravi close, reassuring him Rose was strong. Crow saw the battlefield erupt into total war. To thin the black buffaloes, the golem was their best weapon. Some beasts escaped the first strike and charged the village. Crow warned Yord, who understood instantly. He ordered the hunters to ignite their arrows. They instantly complied, setting their arrow tips aflame. Launching them at the charging buffaloes, fiery arrows arc and strike the field. Flames explode, dazing the beasts. The buffalo panicked, their formation shattered as they stumbled and scattered, many falling into the trench. Yord cried out triumphantly. He ordered stones hurled into the trench. Rocks rained down, crushing fallen buffaloes as pained roars echoed. The fight wasn't over. A second wave of black buffaloes broke off, regrouping with eerie intelligence. They dodged the fire and circled for a new path. Crow, stunned by their tactical charge through the narrow flank. The buffalo charged the wall's unprotected gap, slamming their horns with massive force, but Crow saw it coming. He couldn't let them break through. He raised his hand, reinforcing the wall as stones shifted, hardened, and sealed cracks, holding strong against the enemy's assault. Nearby, a blur tears through the chaos, precisely dropping black buffaloes. Another beast struck down instantly, an owl. Surrounded, Rose and all fought back to back. Rose welcomed him back while a gasping all admitted they were barely holding. His voice shook, they were hitting their limit. Crow reinforced the wall but knew it wouldn't hold. He considered calling Galen back from the demon forest. Magic nearly gone, frustration burned him. He needed to wipe them all out. An idea struck him, eyes bright he clutched Ravi. Fierce battle raged, outcome uncertain. Rose's small figure moved determinedly, swinging her weapon at a buffalo, blood splattering on impact. Panting, she gritted her teeth and braced herself. No trapped arrow thuds at their feet, I snatch it and read. He rose calling Rose. Crow ordered a retreat, and Rose understood instantly. Crow knelt in the village, hand on ground, lost in thought. To stop the herd scattering, he carved a straight road to the demon forest, magic bursting from the earth as he shouted, refining. Earth wall, the ground shakes as dozens of buffaloes stampede. Earthen walls boxed in the path. Crow cursed, his magic nearly dry, but now he could funnel the herd. Recall the gigant golem, suddenly. The massive golem slammed down with a thunderous crash. It lunged forward, staring down the pane. Its presence didn't deter the buffaloes. Crow roared the command, smash the black buffaloes. Goal in sight, he charged. He explodes into the fray. Il and the others screamed for Crow. Determined to win, he roared, I'll finish this. The golem's massive arm swung. It sweeps up buffaloes and debris. As beasts escaped the walls, the golem emerged. Its footfall shook the ground. Terrified buffaloes scattered. Battle over, Crow fell to his knees clutching Ravi. They won, the village was safe. Exhausted, he finally blacked out. Next morning, Crow woke up squinting at the sun. He sat up disoriented. Is this home? Battle memories flooded back, he'd passed out. Rose and Ravi curled beside him. Crow wondered if Rose was nursing him. Did she sense he was awake? Ravi leapt into his arms, nuzzling his face, overjoyed. Crow thanked Ravi for worrying. Rose woke up next. The day after the buffalo hunt, Crow's magic is back and he's fully recovered. Fighters emerged unharmed. Evacuated villagers returned to Nest Village. Life returned to normal as the debris was finally cleared. Later, Crow muttered, this works, watching the massive golem resting in its special field. Rose burst in, Ravi in her arms, shouting. Smiling, she was glad he was in high spirits. She asked why the golem sat in the field. Crow explained it would get in the way if left standing. He made it sit at the entrance. Charging the fields daily let him power the golem too, keeping them ready for any emergency. In the distance, children in the field pointed, amazed at the strange golem. Wagner frantically ran up, calling for Crow. Emergency, Crow tensed, demanding answers as Wagner reported trouble at the new reservoir. Lizardmen swarm. News froze Crow and Rose. Beyond the village, muscular lizardmen twirled by a pond, building wooden huts and unloading crates of fish. From afar, Crow called them lizardmen, admitting he'd never seen one. He asked Rose what they were, surprising her. Lizardmen are bipedal folk is fine for anime fans. Lizardmen are bipedal folk from the marshes. Unlike normal monsters, they can actually speak human. She stated Crow should know this. Crow nodded, finally understood. He worried the lizard men would permanently settle in their village. A lizard man spotted them, asking if they lived inside the wall. Chichikaka, the 30-year-old Kapoku leader, approached. His massive, peaceful tribe avoids conflict, but marsh bullies force them to flee. These river experts now survive on fish and greens. Crow noted the lizard man's thick accent, telling Rose he seemed gentle. Rose agreed but still questioned why they'd come. Crow introduced himself as the village rep, while Chichikaka revealed they were the upstream Kapoku tribe. They fled here after a war with the Dauphin tribe from the Marshy Islands. He called it paradise found when the river extended to reveal land. Eyes sparkling, he wanted to live there. Crow felt awkward. A simple pond hardly deserved paradise, he'd only made it for village water. Chichikaka smiled, calling him a liar. He claimed it wasn't there days ago, then praised the pond as a divine gift for the Kapoka tribe. He stared at Crow, calling him a master magician for building this, but the lizard man doubted it and feared a rival tribe moving in. Crow decided, promising Chichikaka a proper home, then ordered the group to move. 10 minutes later, they reached a massive open field. Crow asked Wagner if they were safe far from the village. Wagner agreed, villagers won't mind. Chichikaka frowned at the empty plains, doubting they could build a pond in this dry terrain. Crow touched the ground and promised it wouldn't take long. Chichikaka nervously asked to stay by the pond for their wounded. Wagner flatly refused, they couldn't stay. Disheartened, Chichikaka stepped back, asking what to do now. Crow stood, announcing, it's done. Chichikaka blinked, confused. It's done, what is? His words cut short as his eyes widened in shock. Where there was nothing, a new village now stood with fresh huts surrounding a clear pond. Everything was perfect. Chichikaka stared at the transformation. The wasteland was now alive. His tribe's home. Crow hid the pond behind an earthen wall and built huts for the lizard men. He asked Jijikaka, "How's that?" Jijikaka stared, stunned, jaw dropped, slowly exhaling as he grabbed Crow's hands, praising him as a master magician for creating this paradise. Crow sheepishly denied it, but Chichikaka rushed off to call everyone. Kapoko tribe loved Crow's beautiful pond and new settlement. They officially moved in. In thanks, they gave Crow plenty of river fish, so Crow decided to maintain friendly trade with them. Nest Village, 51 people. The Beyond Call project launched to counter the lizardman crisis, adding river fish as a new resource. A month later, Rose visits Crow with Owl and Swift Archer. They're heading to the demon forest, leaving Ravi in his care. Crow grinned, wished them luck, and headed to work. His schedule was packed, refilling farm magic and managing slimes at the water plant. He scans the walls and tests the playground gear. Duties done, he collapsed with Ravi beside him, utterly spent. He sighed, muttering it was exhausting, too much to handle alone. Suddenly, Crow looked up as Ravi Bard approached. Caravan rolls in. Crow's face lit up, recognizing Stewart's caravan. Caravan stopped and Seabass and Stewart grinned, thrilled to see Crow. Crow greeted them, praising their work. Stewart smiled, noting the village's growth, but paused, eyeing something strange. Puzzled, he pointed at the giant golem in the field and asked. Crow gave a wry smile, admitted something terrible happened but avoided the full story. Crow tasked Seabass with Ravi's potion, reports later. Then Crow asked Stewart about his prior request. Stewart nodded, gesturing to nearby men and women. "I've brought them." Stewart's an alchemist. Crow remembered Stewart's last visit to Nest Village. He asked him to gather people to relocate. They were most desperate to recruit an alchemist. Goal: mass-produce potions. With high-quality herbs and training, the village can finally craft B-rank brews. Stewart recruited 30 alchemists for the village. Crow thanked him while Seabass petted Ravi. Crow ordered Stewart to line up the alchemists immediately. Stewart hesitated, explaining he was only told to gather them. He hadn't checked their pasts and asked if it was a problem. Crow shook his head. His appraisal skill instantly assessed people. Crow scanned the group with his skill. They looked hardworking, but none of them had special abilities at first glance. He spotted 14-year-old alchemist Marika Krabens. Skills: Alchemy B, Craftsmanship D, Special Trait, Right Cat's Claw. Additional skill: Quality Preservation, Rank C. The dark-haired girl stood out. Crow's eyes widened, details focused. She wasn't just any alchemist. Marika Krabens, a famous royal capital alchemist. That night, Crow and Seabass sat at the village's outdoor dining, Ravi eating nearby. Crow apologized for the wait, asking to hear the report first. Seabass told Crow's father first, then the Earl and Duke discussed it. Crow sighed, already knowing the Duke would get involved. Earl El Dorado served the Rosenberg Dukes. Serious incidents there needed their orders. Seabass banned A-rank potions from the Commerce Guild to keep Crow and the village safe. They shipped them straight to the Duke. Crow knew A-rank potions could shift noble power. Seabass reported the Lavini farm remains could sell for 100 million gil, despite no regulations. Stunned by the massive sum, Crow hesitantly asked about Ravi. Seabass reveals Ravi isn't officially a Lavini Fong, she's registered as a Silver Fong subspecies. He suspects Crow's father used an air-rank potion to deal with the Duke and hide the truth. Seabass said Crow's father wouldn't object to him raising a Lavini Fong after seeing the massive adult. He ordered Seabass to take charge and protect them. His father's words hit Crow. Was it just the A-rank potions or Lavina Fong's corpse, or was it trust? Smiling, he knew with his father's support, he could develop the domain without worry. Seabass asks for the plan and Crow decides to train his new alchemists. Seeing them gathered in the fields, Seabass wonders if any are actually skilled. Crow smirked, confirming there was one. 3 hours earlier, Crow gathered the alchemists in the field to test their skills. Introducing himself as the village leader, a young black-haired girl stepped forward from the group. Locking eyes with him, she introduced herself as Marika Clements. Excited, Marika asked Crow if he was the god behind that potion. Crow was confused. She revealed that 10 days ago she was with Stewart. She stared at the delicious beer ink potion, wondering who could have brewed it. Stewart said Crow El Dorado, Nest Village's ruler, crafted it. She struggled to recall the village name and Crow's. Stewart explained Nest Village is recruiting alchemists and invited her to join. Marika thought going to Nest Village meant making potions with Crow. She firmly declared she'd go. Crow smiled awkwardly, realizing how she came to the village. he confirmed he made her potion. Marika dropped to her knees before the alchemists, asking if he was truly a god. Crow realized she wasn't bad, just weird. Marika stood up, admitting something was on her mind. She pointed to the field grass, remarking it looked like healing grass. Crow confirmed it was, explaining the village cultivated medicinal herbs there. The alchemists were stunned. One called it absurd, another claimed she knew it was healing grass, and others insisted cultivation was impossible. Crow revealed medicinal herbs thrive where monsters live due to magic soil. They infused the village fields with it, mimicking the demon forest, prompting Marika to touch the earth and say, as expected of a god. Adding with high-quality herbs, they'd brew delicious B-rank potions. Crow watched her, sensing her weirdness from afar. He noted that Kilji's mountain water boosts their potion quality. Nest Village made no potions below C rank. Crow said until they produced B-rank potions, they'd tend fields, do village maintenance, and polish alchemy. Crow's challenge drove an alchemist to vow he'd brew B-rank potions, while another questioned the specific village chores required. As Marika lay face down, Crow told alchemists to practice alchemy now. He swiftly grabbed enchanted soil. Magic surged through the ground, stunning Marika. Seconds later, grass shot up alive. Marika gasped, awestruck. The shoots matured instantly. Crow grinned, promising more, and his hand flared as he chanted, enriched produce. An earth wall erupts from the ground. Crow knocks on it, explaining his magic turned the dirt solid and can make it even stronger. The alchemists gaped. So that's earth magic, one whispered. Crow smiled, explaining fusing magic transformed materials and created magic itself. Alchemy wasn't just for potions. Wonderful, Marika whispered, awestruck. She knelt before Crow again, hailing him as a god. She'd just seen the future of alchemy. Crow, embarrassed, begged her, use my name. Then he ordered everyone to infuse the fields with magic. The alchemists knelt, desperate to replicate Crow's power. Crow watched them struggle with magic, exactly as he expected. He saw Marika ace the task. Seabass smiled, calling it impressive. He hoped it lightened ease Crow's workload, but one last matter remained. He extended the Swift Archer's service, paying 1 million gil monthly, but the contract bypassed El Dorado, going straight to Crow. Crow agreed. Swift Archer was a huge help. Seabass continued, reminding Crow of his earlier point. Owl returned to Bird's Garden with the caravan for night school prep. Crow understood it was always meant to be. Sad to see all go, he felt only gratitude and wished he could thank his brother properly for coming this far. Next morning, back at the alchemist atelier, Marika stared amazed at Crow's neat, orderly workspace, shelves lined with ingredient bottles. Crow explained a first-floor well-provided water anytime, perfect for potions. Marika's eyes sparkled, declaring she could make potions forever, a thought Crow awkwardly found unnecessary. She asked to try one. He pointed to his prepared materials. Magica grass floated in a jar on the table. Crow knew this material would yield an A-rank potion, and Marika might pull it off too. Marika breathed deep, placed hands on the jar, chanting, refining magic recovery. Her power surged, water shimmered. Magica grass boiled and spun as light exploded, blinding the room. Crow's eyes widened at the blinding light hits. Is it A-rank? Soon the glow faded, revealing the B-rank magic recovery potion. Crow mourned the waste. It almost hit a rank but stayed a top-tier B. Marika shook him with excitement. She exclaimed, white gold, an A-rank potion's mark, could she reach it? She entered the god's realm, shaking him harder as Ravi barked in protest. She apologized, unable to contain her excitement. Crow, dizzy from her grip, found her drive terrifying, but they'd already infused the fields with magic, a massive win. Clutching his head, he thought at this pace, they could soon produce A-rank potions, but since the Commerce Guild wouldn't buy A-ranks, Marika needed to mass-produce B-rank potions. He regretted missing a rank first try but knew they'd succeed. They'd continue B-rank production, Marika eagerly agreeing. She cheered that the potion lets her work 3 days straight, but Crow begged her to stop shortening her life. Ravi sighed for him. Crow gave Marika a new task unrelated to potions. He wanted to see her full potential. Moments later at the potion warehouse, hundreds of crates loomed. Marika activated her quality preservation skill, flooding the room with light. The skill perfectly boosted her alchemy, keeping massive potion stocks fresh forever. Crow realized they weren't limited to small guild orders anymore, the limits were gone. He noticed Marika couldn't leave the area while the preservation magic was active. Crow then brought out pizza and Marika's eyes lit up, drooling. One taste and she's hooked on the premium eggs and cheese. Simple ingredients, but this combo changes everything. Crow planned to sell surplus eggs. Marika happily offered to cast preservation magic, fresh eggs fetch more. Crow questioned her but Marika insisted on helping the village. He thanked her and offered a reward. Marika grinned, accepting the deal and, winking, he promised they'd make 3 Birank potions daily. Alchemists watched Kentucky affectionately handle and speak to the lalliboards outside the bird coop. Marika is stunned when the birds love her back, never expecting them to be this sweet. Crow showed the alchemists around Nest Village for a change of pace. Only Mariko produces beer ink potions. Crow trains her successors by making them farm, brew potions, and build walls to sharpen their magical precision. If they improved more, he'd entrust them with morning duties. C-rank alchemist Jimmy was shocked they were raising magical beasts, but Crow saw him as the top talent behind Marika. Only Marika and Jimmy lived solely by alchemy, needing no side job like everyone else. Crow says healing herbs will calm the lalibird. Marika asks to help and Kentucky agrees. She offered birds herbs, noting their intelligence surpassed wild ones, a result of Crow's healing herbs, as expected. Crow doubted smart was the word. Herbs caused the lalbird's lethargy. He led the group to the reservoir, stopping at the lizardman village to pay respects. When they arrived at the reservoir, Crow explained it was also created through alchemy. An alchemist gasped, "One person built this reservoir?" Another corrected, "It's a diverted river," then asked Crow the distance. Crow admitted one person couldn't do it alone, but together it was possible. Jimmy asked why they worked with lizardmen. Crow explained they trade veggies for fish and pointed as the village appeared. They arrived but something's wrong. Jimmy and Crow found no one, wondering what happened. Then, one by one, lizard men rose from the pond. Jimmy pointed, asking Crow, "River lizard men." Crow confirmed it, wondering why they were in the pond. Some lizard men fearfully signaled them. Jimmy asked if they should run, then someone suddenly shouted for Crow. Something stirred inside the huts. Creatures emerged and Crow quickly ordered everyone to hide behind trees. B-rank goblins burst from cover. Crow scanned the wreckage and knew goblins had raided the village. Keep it. Jimmy offered to get backup from Nest Village but Crow waved him off, insisting he'd handle this solo. Marika worried what would happen if he failed. Wait. Crow assured Marika alchemy works for combat, then slammed his hand down, surging magic through the soil. The ground bulged. A goblin noticed the disturbance, refining earth needle. Earth spikes erupted. He skewered the goblins, killing them instantly. Crow sees an escapee from the spikes, this time. He raised his hands, forging an alchemic air cannon. Sharp motion. Compressed air blasted forward, slamming the fleeing goblin head-on. Immense pressure shredded its body. The alchemist gaped as the goblin was instantly crushed. Crow explained that with this alchemy, he could unleash many attacks. Chikaka ran up, praising the powerful wizard and thanking him, saying he owed Crow one. Crow said nothing, then asked if anyone was hurt. From behind, Mariko heard the lizard man's strong accent, surprised. Chichikaka told Crow they were safe, having sensed the goblins, and ordered everyone to hide. Crow felt awkward as 50 tribesmen emerged, all terrified of just 2 goblins. Chichikaka spotted the alchemists and Crow confirmed they were fellow alchemists. Marika revealed she's an alchemist too, but admitted Crow's skills are on another level. Chichikaka agreed, calling him the greatest mage alive. Crow awkwardly asked if Chichikaka could rest now, but the lizard man snapped it wasn't over. Crow asked what else was wrong. Chichikaka revealed the goblins served the swamp lizard man. Crow was stunned, and the lizard man warned they were savage. Goblins drove lizard men from their village. Now targeting this place, they'll attack until they take it. Marika called it terrible, while Crow asked Chichikaka where his village was. Chichikaka said it's upriver, past the demon forest. Goblins hit Kapaka. Nest Village is next. Crow promised Chichikaka he'd bring peace, then raced back to Nest Village to plan. Pleased, the lizard man told Crow they're in. Back at Nest Village, Crow met the All Brothers fresh from the demon forest. He explained the situation and asked for backup. They agreed. Yoruto and Narasu prepared to scout. They dropped the gathered bones. Kyra pointed to the pile, asking if it was enough. Crow thanked him, saying it's plenty. These bones came from the black buffalo that attacked Nest Village. Magically imbued, they'd sell as field fertilizer. Whitehair asks about the bones, so Crow explains that aggressive swamp lizard men drop the best materials. He pushed for new weapons for everyone. Hearing this, everyone demanded Crow make weapons too. Crow said they'd take turns, starting with Yoruto and Nelson's. Hurry. Crow hoped his first forge would succeed. Touching the ground, he decided their shape. Owl and Rose rely on speed, so heavy swords would only slow them down, but too light, it lacked power. He densified the bone, crafting a thin, strong sword. Chanting, he forged the bone into 2 swords. Rose will check them out excitedly. They swung light and easy, enhancing body magic. Yorudo notes alchemy creates weapons too, and Crow confirms imagination is the only limit. Anyone could achieve it with practice, so he crafted weapons for Yorudo and Nelsis. The Al brothers cheered, receiving theirs. Crow demanded the intel. The enemy village, built around a swamp, was mostly muddy. 50 armed goblins and 30 red swamp lizardmen guard the base, with the goblins clearly calling the shots. Crow noted more goblins than expected, making an attack on Nest village troublesome. Karasuki suggested negotiating if they understood language, and Crow agreed, hoping for peace. Karasuki paused, then pitched Crow a proposal. They whispered and Crow agreed. Karasuki offered a grateful nod. Crow had his own plan to test out. Clenching his fist, he announced the operation starts tomorrow. Swamp Lizardman Settlement on the Old River. Chief Barjo of the Duffin tribe just learned the goblins found a pure water source. The lizard man reported the Kepok tribe subdued, a goblin reported back. Barjia rubbed his head. Mocking their weakness, he was stunned. 4 goblins crushed them. They didn't even seem like the same lizard men. Another lizard man said a massive walled town lay ahead, but they couldn't enter. Construction was massive. Barjo waited for the gates to open to strike, but a voice suddenly called out. Humans announced their arrival, seeing Crow's group. Barjo demanded their names. They came from a southern village. Local goblins caused trouble. He had to keep the goblin away and save the Kepok tribe. Barjo asked what if he refused. I will. Simple answer, exterminate them all. Doskov ignored his position and didn't care one bit. Did Al think they'd let him leave safe? Looks like the negotiations failed. Barjo warned they were done. Giggling goblins charged Crow's group. I buff his weapon with magic as the first goblin lunges. He swiftly struck it down. More goblins closed in. I stepped back and cut them down with a sweeping slash. Barjo flinched. Rose lunged, legs bent. He carves through goblins as one lunges from above. Lepire smashed its head. She pulled her weapon and stabbed, sending the goblin crashing. Barjia mutters they're strong as Rose, and Al stands side by side. Fist bumping. Yorudo wielded his dagger, firing arrows at range. Jimmy blasted the goblins with magic. Goblins broke off and fled. Barjo shouted, demanding where they went, but turning he froze. Archers on the wall aimed at the goblins. Crow smiled atop the walls. Barjo stared, stunned. Walls ringed the village. A mad magician appeared. Goblins scrambled to escape. Yorudo ordered full guard release. Archers fire arrows at the goblins. Arrows rained down, shredding them. Barjo saw it unfold and cursed, surrounded with no escape. Rapid footsteps thundered as all charged straight at Barjo. Weapons clashed, a sharp ring. I taunt him, asking if he's looked around yet. Warned him stay focused. Their attacks clashed, an explosion erupted. Crow watched from the wall, wanting Owl focused on supporting the troops. Owl told Crow he'd trained Rose in the demon forest. Ready to return to Bird's garden, he saw this battle as Rose's final training. Before re-entering the night school, he had to test his new strength. Moved by those words, Crow smiled and agreed to the plan. Earth Needle was useless in the swamp, so Crow switched to his backup magic. Yorudo yells to keep firing as the archers target the lizard men, but reptilian warriors snatched arrows midair. Chief Barjo snarled, goblins useless, forcing lizard men to lead the attack. Lizard men charged, weapons drawn, as Yorudo dodged an axe swing. He signaled another volley, and this time the arrows hit their mark. Jimmy missed a lizard man sneaking behind him. It readied its strike when Jimmy muttered, sure met. Chanting, ice spikes burst forth. The lizard man recoiled as the swampy ground became an ice field. Their feet froze solid, the biting chill forcing a pained grunt as they stood paralyzed, wondering what hit them. Crow watched from the wall. Wet ground makes earth magic harder, but that means other magic thrives. Owl and Rose didn't need his help. Despite the swamp, they attacked relentlessly. Chief Barjia roared in frustration, damn brats. I'll keep fighting Chief Barjo while Rose shreds the other lizardmen. Chief Barjo and Owl charged, weapons clashing. I knocked the chief's weapon away, sending his axe spinning into the ground. Barjo cursed, glancing back, his goblins gone. With the lizard men crushed, a blade hits his throat. I ask if he still thinks he can win. Barjo met Owl's gaze, admitting defeat. Crow and his team leaped down and closed in. Crow confronted Barjo, demanding his name and if he led the clan. Barjo introduces himself, doubting the kid's leadership. I turned to Crow, asking about the remaining lizard men. Suddenly Barjo begged for mercy, vowing never to oppose Crow again. He surrendered their gear, vowing to leave it all behind. Crow hesitated. Until now, he'd fought demons mercilessly, beings beyond reason or negotiation. These lizard men were different, they could actually talk and bargain. Naive thought, but a small chance they could change. How far should he punish such enemies? Crow forced the lizard men far north to survive, and banned them from ever commanding goblins again. Break this promise, he'd watch them annihilate it. Barjo hated owing anyone but accepted Crow's decision and sheathed his weapon. Barjo forced his warriors to surrender their limbs, making the dolphin tribe a clan of one-armed men. Crow raised his blade, severing every lizard man's left arm. Al confirmed the weapons were secured. With their village in ashes, the lizard men had nowhere to go. Crow questioned his course of action. Rose hugged him from behind, noting his grim look. She vowed if the lizard men return, she'll take them down herself. Crow apologized for the blood-flustering Rose. She insisted he wash up, but he laughed when she asked why. He shook his head. They clashed hands. Rose vowed to return to Nest Village. Crow paused, then agreed. He now knew danger lurked far beyond the demon forest. Strengthen Nest Village's defenses immediately. Save everyone. Days passed since the battle with the lizard men. Departure day finally arrived, and Sebastian thanked Alani Isma for everything. Crow smiled, encouraging him for the Night Academy. Owl, gripping Crow's sword, vowed his best, believing himself a good boy. He left Rose to guard Nest Village, and she confidently vowed to crush any invading demons. Lavi approached. I'll pat him and entrust him with protecting Crow. Sebastian warned Owl to stay safe, and Owl promised to return on his next break. He shouted goodbye, boarding the wagons. The group watched him leave as Stuart noted Crow was next. Crow smiled, telling Stuart to guard Al and bring more Philosopher's Stones next time. Stuart promised to boost it further. Meanwhile, a man apologized to Alchemist Sama, asking him to move a crop to the plaza. Jimmy S.N. After the Lizerman incident, Crow boosted his defenses. With Stuart's Philosopher's Stone, he created golems. He deployed alchemists for a 24-hour watch over the Kepak clan's reservoir. Even villagers joined the effort while golems handled manual labor to improve daily life. Kroll was hyped for their next breakthrough. Wagons gone, Crow focused on upgrading Nest Village and turning his golems into a powerful defense. He declared today they'd start combat training in the Demon's Forest. He gave the order anyway, knowing the alchemist needed combat experience. Jimmy nervously accepted, ready to give it his all. Hayabusa's shooter tagged along for backup. Lord Crow's calling for you. Wildfang appeared. Crow asked Jimmy, ready? Startled, Jimmy affirmed. Wildfang leapt at them, landing on a golem's head. Jimmy froze until Crow's shout snapped him back to focus. Jimmy's goal grabbed and hurled the monster away. Wildfang rose for another strike, but goal launched first. Fist slams it, crashing it down. Onlookers gasped, amazed. Golem defeated the monster. Another alchemist's golem struck a Wildfang's stomach, dispatching it easily. Erica's golem instantly crushed two monsters. Alchemists tallied their kills while Jimmy praised the golem's power. They finally saw it. These approved golems were built for battle. Crow watched Marika shine, soloing 15 wild fangs, proving alchemist's skill dictated golem combat. He then left for a new task, ordering them to continue training with the Hate No Archer. Marika was performing perfectly, so he invited her on the Nest Village survey and she gladly accepted. Later, Marika muttered, "This feels like a dream. Writing a goal this massive." Eating, Rose asked Crow's plan for the perimeter survey. Crow replied first to the swamp lizardman settlement. Marika added, then north. Rose asked about the lizard men, but Crow warned they couldn't trust their word or past mercy. That giant golem would terrify them again. Rose whispered his name, then Marika gasped, spotting a swamp lizardman settlement. Crow confirmed it, so they moved in on foot to investigate. They creep scanning. Levi shadowed the investigation. Hours searching. Finding no trace of the swamp lizard men, they headed back. No signs this far north. Crow thought the Lysermen weren't hostile. Suddenly, Crow noticed something odd. He yelled that goblins surrounded someone. Dwarf smashes the goblin. Slicing its stomach, it sprawled. Blood splattered the ground. Rose gasped in shock, realizing they were dwarves and wondering what they were doing here. One dwarf grunted at the endless monsters while another gasped at the massive golem. Marika whispered in recognition and a shocked Crow asked if she knew them. Marika explained that in the capital the two were dwarf brothers making glass potion bottles for her supplier. One dwarf, thrilled to see her, rushed over, surprised to find her here. They planned to follow her to Nest Village. The other dwarf asked who her companions were. Marika introduced them. Crow, Lord of Nest Village, and Roses, Lady of the Rambling Viscount family. The dwarf glared at Crow, shocked a kid was the Lord, as Marika snapped at the brothers for being rude. They declared Crow the god who pioneered alchemy's future and created the giant golem. The dwarves stood stunned. This massive golem proved Crow's master alchemy and they apologized for judging him by his looks. Northern Dwarf Clan, a 200-year-old versatile crafter, made everything from glass to weapons. He loved alcohol, admitting he couldn't function without it. He and his brother Verto were. Verto introduced himself and the brothers asked to work in Nest Village. A 200-year-old dwarf craftsman, Verto finishes Nord's creations. He craves strong liquor and gets restless without it, but Crow's appraisal results were trash and the booze stench was obvious, making bottles locally beat importing from Bird's Garden. Crow cautiously asked if their drinking caused trouble. The dwarves flustered, gasping at the question. Crow confirmed his suspicion. Marika leaned closer and whispered, "No need to worry." She vouched for their skills. "They're blacksmiths, so living outside the village won't cause trouble." Crow noted she knew them well. He considered blacksmithing is loud. If drinking caused ruckus, a secluded area would minimize issues. Crow finally made his choice. They could stay. They'd come too far to be turned away now. Nord sighed in relief, grateful. Verto warned their drinking nearly got them sent back to the capital, wondering how the Lord knew their alcohol fondness. Crow snapped it was obvious, they reeked of it. Verto sheepishly laughed, she was right. Nord spots Ravi and asks if it's a monster. Crow named it Ravi, raised in Nest Village. Nord nodded, patting Ravi. Muttering about its cuteness. Ravi flinches at the sudden hug but refuses to let go. Nord worried, Ravi went limp. Crow rushed over, calling his name, instantly knowing Verto and Nord's strong alcohol stench overwhelmed Ravi. Rose darkened, an ominous aura flaring as she clenched her fist. Crow nervously called her name. Furious, Rose banned the dwarves from Ravi, sending the brothers scrambling behind Marika. Crow knew keeping them far from the village was the right call. Autumn hit Nest Village, bringing 300 immigrants. The air sizzled with the delicious scent of grilled fish. Seabass confirmed immigration went smoothly and the welcome party succeeded. Crow, tired, agreed. Seabass saw he was drained, so Crow explained he'd just appraised 300 people at once. In a single day, he built 4 new residential zones for the newcomers, each housing 100 people. Seabass noted how exhausting the work was. Crow 8 realized, despite good treatment, 300 people settled in this remote place. Seabass explained life was tough outside, so many would seize guaranteed winter survival. Then, someone in the crowd yelled for Crowdotans. Chichikaka chimed in, glad they were allowed to join. Crow smiled, grateful the Kipoks always protected them. Chichikaka cheered, happy other races finally showed respect as Crow acknowledged their brutal past. As the crowd's chatter swelled, Crow sensed trouble, pushing in to investigate. He saw Nord and Verdadrunk, Marika desperately stopping them. She spotted Crow and apologized for looking away. Crow told her it wasn't her fault and approached the dwarfs. Verdot bellowed the feudal lord arrived. Nord added he came just in time. Verto handed Crow the custom gear as Nor asked what sake snack he'd make. Crow beams, thanks them, and vows to make it immediately. Rose grumbled in the kitchen, annoyed she had to help. Crow promised she'd taste it first if she helped make it. Rose examined a tool, asking about its blade, a type she'd never seen. Crow pointed out the peeler and the slicer. Rose asked if the dwarf brothers made them and how they worked. Crow showed her how the peeler worked, leaving Rose stunned by his speed. Crow showed Marika the slicer and she gasped. It was faster than a knife and made every slice perfectly even. Rose, watching, asked if the Kuro pot's oil was hot enough. Perfunctor agreed. They dropped the soaked sliced potatoes into the hot oil. Oil bubbled as the potatoes fried. Crow declared it was time. He removed the chips, salted them, then let them cool. He announced the verdict, the potato chips were ready. Marika eyed the fresh chips, raving about their smell. Crow urged everyone to dig in. Rose muttered, curious about the taste. Beige took a bite. They smirked satisfied. Rose marveled deep-fried potatoes tasted so delicious. Someone erupted, asking to try one. Nord took a bite and cheered, it's delicious. Berto said it's perfect with sake. A man shouted that Kuro-sama made another amazing dish. Kids rushed Kuro-sama, shouting his name and begging for food. Frost warmly shared it, the village erupted in cheer. Crow muttered he hit his limit, the line of villagers wanting chips grew longer. Sebastian's help barely kept things under control. Berto stepped forward with the prototypes Crow requested. You give him a potion, sobering him up. Nord asks about the prototypes. Crow praised them but ordered a switch to wood to slash production costs. He needed to drop the 50,000 gil price tag down to under 500. They didn't need that much durability. Shocked, Vertua questioned if tools should break easily. Crow says cheap tools work if they last a year but Verto wants durability. Nord demands to know why Crow wants him cheap. Crow's reasoning: he wanted chips anyone could enjoy, making them widespread. He aimed to sell huge quantities in the royal capital for significant profit. Gear had to be cheap. Nord went silent, but Verto hated making low-quality items. But seeing the villagers delight eating chips, Verto conceded. Bringing people joy through their creations is the ultimate reward for any craftsman. Verto called for more drinks as Nord told Crow to expect the new upgrades. Crow considered refining the peeler and slicer further. He wanted more chip flavors to boost sales. He boiled Ralbert bones for a consomme flavor, but it was too slow. Tired of relying on the guild for salt and pepper, he decided to grow his own spices. He tasked Stuart to bring various spy seeds. Sebus agreed to send a letter. Crow watched the villagers feast. He smirked. The archers explored the bustling town, soaking it in. Lizard men blended into the crowd, while Rose and Marika fried more chips. Crow thought that with residents growing significantly, they should branch out into new ventures. Tomorrow they're heading to Ragna Village, a town famous for dairy. Ragna Village. Cattle grazed peacefully, their steady chewing filling the air with calm. Kids crowd around, staring in awe at the moving golem as a man approaches Crow. Demetri, the village head, introduced himself. An appraisal window detailed the 46-year-old Rigno village leader. He loved sheep and goats, his handmade cheese and butter prized by villages, his herbivore training skills widely. Crow explained they often met Tree's dairy products, so he came to pay respects, offering friendship. The gift was a B-ranked potion and vegetables. Dimitri gaped at the price, but Crory smiled, saying Nest Village had plenty. It was just a gift. Demetri, though surprised, admitted he heard rumors of Nest Village's growth but didn't expect it to be true. Wagner, proud, declared it was all thanks to Crow. Demetri thanked him, saying the gift was perfect timing. Goblins had just raided the village, leaving many wounded. He spoke with weary resolve as protecting his people was worth the struggle, he said, patting a sheep. He smiled warmly, but Crow's face darkened. Ragna Village constantly moved within a range, unlike Nest Village's fixed defenses. Their mobile tents bred constant anxiety. Suddenly it hit him. He urged Ragno's people to Nest Village for safety, stable food, and rituals. Dairy access made the deal a win-win, but Demetri shook his head. They survive on livestock, moving constantly for fresh grass. Settling down isn't an option. Proposed countered. Always enough grass, no more moving. Silence fell, eyes locked on him. Cattle lowing echoed, filling the air. Whispers rippled through the crowd, questioning Cronolt's plans for alchemy. With a cry in his heart, he willed forth grasslands. Instantly, the ground erupted into a lush green carpet. Gasps erupted. Demetri stared at the miracle, alchemy that revives grass. Villagers saw sheep devouring it more eagerly than ever. Crow called dormitory sand. Feed problem solved, what do you think? A villager urged their leader. Demetri closed his eyes, thought, then resolute faced Crow. He accepted, trusting his people to guard the village. He collapsed to his knees, sobbing with gratitude. Crow's smile glowed, promising harmony. The villagers' smile back, clear as the leaf. Crow and Wagner locked eyes, sensing the gravity. 2 days later, Demetri rejoined his Rigno villagers. They scanned the strange land, whispering it was home. Crow welcomed them to Nest Village, immediately showing them around. Because herbivores sensed monsters, Ragno villagers lived across the cursed forest. He showed their new homes. Kids burst with joy seeing the rooms. They leapt on the beds, amazed by the softness. Crow led them to the barn, explaining the dirt wall would block the noise and smell. Villagers loved the solid, spacious, comfortable facilities for their livestock. Crow reached the farmland, and the kids cheered at the massive fields. Etri grinned, noting they were settling in perfectly. With the alchemist's help, they prepped tons of gear in just 2 days. Rose arrived with Ravi, sighing that the animal sense drove the kid wild. Ravi wriggled free. It bolted. Rose screamed as Dimitri froze, recognizing the silver wildfang. He panicked at the thought of a dangerous being among them, but Crow's smile reassured him. Crow called Ravi. Cheerful Ravi replied, and Crow asked him to guide the sheep. Ravi lunged forward, scattering the flock. Ravi chased them with wild energy, stunning the villagers with his intelligence. Crow explained they could now give the creature requests. Crow asked what else the villagers needed. Dimitri explained that making cheese was tough without a facility, especially for mass production. They need a workshop. He outlined 3 rooms to split processes. One heats, another molds and drains. Another shapes and ages. Since they're shearing sheep, they need a dedicated room to spin yarn. Crow agreed, hitting up the dwarf brothers for gear. He tasked Demetri with Nest Village's horses, grow their numbers and train them. Demetri confidently accepted. Crow realized mounted alchemists would massively boost the village's mobility. With woolen clothes for winter and plenty of dairy, their lives would only grow richer. Territory records updated, Nest Village, population 400. After merging with Rigno, they began ranching, dairy farming, and raising many sheep, goats, and horses. Rambling Viscount's estate. Gazing outside, he ordered her to Nest Village where his daughter lived. She relied on her. She knelt before him. A faint smile touched his lips. The village buzzed with energy. Crow enjoyed his cheesy morning pizza, thinking it was a wonderful start to the day. Suddenly, Rose ran in, panicked. She screamed that Diana was in the village, but a firm voice suddenly cut her off. Diana steps forward, stating no point in running. Rose snapped she wasn't running, just asking why Diana showed up. Urgently called Rose. Before another word, Diana's sharp gaze found her, then she charged. Rose's eyes widened in shock. Diana hugged her tight, swearing she'd never let go. Appraisal window, Diana McLear, 12, attendant and power swordsman bodyguard for Rose of the Rambling family. She adored Rose, fearing only her disapproval. Rose orders her to calm down while Crow smiles, thanking Diana for the long trip. Rose spun around, shocked he knew she was coming, and demanded to know why he stayed silent. Crow admitted getting a letter from Viscount Rambling but hid it, fearing her anxiety. Diana explains she took Owl's place after he returned to Bird's garden. Bowing low, she thanked Crow and took over Rose's care. Rose sighed, knowing her carefree days were over. Crow sent Diana to Rose's house, claiming it was big enough. Rose gave in, ordering Diana to obey him. Diana's face lit with joy to live alone with Rose. Crow worried, 2 women together meant complications. Still, another strong fighter was a massive win. He noted she just arrived, but he'd put Diana to work immediately. Soon the 3 headed into the forest, an archer trailing behind. Crow says they hunt the cursed forest for food and supplies. Rose asked how far they'd go with their new numbers. Crow said they're pushing past the Black Buffalo territory. Diana questioned why the demon was here. Out of sight, Lavi wanted to come but fell asleep. Crow used Eris's borrowed golem to carry Lavi. Giant golems were too big for hunting, so this small one was perfect. He wondered what happened to Marika's bear. They ran straight into a herd of black buffalo. She told Crow to move, then raised her sword. The buffalo charged. It charged, Diana perfectly intercepted the attack. The impact sent smoke flying. As it cleared, the buffalo stood enraged, but before it struck again, Diana swung her great sword, cutting it down in one blow. Another buffalo charged, but she sliced it down instantly. 2 more attacked from behind, but Rose grinned, flashed, and cut them down. Crow watched, satisfied. Their teamwork was flawless. Rose held firm and they fought in perfect sync. They penetrated the cursed forest. Rose realized their progress. Crow notes there between Devil's Forest and the Kyrgyz Mountains as the ground steepens. Rose warned Diana to stay sharp, and she answered with steady resolve. Sound shattered the silence. Something looms. Rose's warning halted the group. A massive elder grizzly burst from the shadows, radiating dominance as a solitary, territorial rank B threat. You gasp, sensing the danger. Crow calculates, a B-rank beast equals 100 black buffalo. Rose questioned fighting. Crow seized this chance to gauge its strength. He faced it head-on. Elder Grizzly roared, slamming its fist into the golem, sending it reeling back. The forest trembled with its fury. Diana lunges forward. Her sword slammed the beast, smoke rising as she sliced its neck. Monster charged undeterred, its bulk rushing her. Frustrated, Diana yelled. Her attack was shallow. The grizzly lunged high, claws bared. She slammed them down with terrifying speed. Bracing herself, she marveled at its power. Suddenly, rock spires burst from the ground, piercing the monster mid-charge, crashing it to the earth. Diana froze, eyes wide, realizing what happened. It was earth magic. The monster staggered back, urgent cries urged Diana to retreat. Eros shot toward the elder grizzly. Sypha cast a spell, summoning a flame sphere to pierce the worthy. Fire burst from nowhere, slammed the monster and exploded, engulfing its body in flames. The elder grizzly roared in fury. Chrome muttered, impressed it dodged even such a spell befitting its B rank. Yeti grinned. Rose appeared behind him and the beast whipped around. Before it countered, her blade flashed. A clean strike severed its arm, sending blood spraying as the beast howled. Its confidence shattered and Crow saw it weakening. This was their chance. Grand Needle spell risked Rose's team on the front lines, so he sent a golem instead. It rose to its feet and lunges, striking the grizzly's stomach hard. The beast didn't flinch, smashing the golem back with a massive counter. Cracks split the golem's face, but it digs in and holds firm. Gathering power, it leapt, driving a devastating punch into the monster's skull, bursting the elder grizzly's head apart as it soared. The golem slammed down as the monster's corpse hit the dirt. Crow roared in victory, the elder grizzly was finished. Diana and awestruck questioned the golem's power, so Crow revealed he built it using alchemy. Diana was stunned it wasn't earth magic, and Rose added the earlier walls were alchemy too. Crow's face twisted with embarrassment at the reveal. Ravi slipped from his grasp. He ran in frantic circles and collapsed. Nurses noted its movements mimicked territorial marking. Rose wondered if Ravi liked the place. Crow knew it claimed this spot, but its timing puzzled him. Herd suddenly called, noticing something. See the elder grizzly's old scar. A deep gash appeared, but not from their fight. Crow confirmed it wasn't theirs. He studied its size, concluding something very large made it, maybe an elder grizzly or something stronger. Chilling thought hit Lavenur Fong, widening his eyes. The Lavani Fong, mountain ruler, why descend into the cursed forest? The fresh wound in its grisly stomach showed it lost a territory fight. A ranked monster shouldn't fall so easily. Was something even deadlier lurking in the Kurger's mountains? Investigation later, Crow ordered the grizzly butchered to head home. Tonight they feast on meat. Village buzzed, eager crowds lined up. Too tough to roast, the elder grizzly meat became a hearty stew. Crow smiled, serving everyone a bowl. Rose Blue sipped the stew. Her eyes widened. She instantly grabbed more, her face flushing and eyes sparkling with joy. The rich meat melted on her tongue like never before. Entranced, Diana exclaimed the sweet, fatty meat enriched the broth. Frost smiled, satisfied. The meat was delicious and the hot pot was the right call. Diana set her bowl down and spoke up. Today's win was all thanks to Crow's alchemy, a power everyone once called a failure. To build facilities this big, it wasn't a village's job but a town's. She said the villagers' smiles and energy were all thanks to him. Crow admitted her words worked, then Diana called his name. Softening, she asked him to treat her well. Crow beamed. Plaster Hand welcomes Diana to Nest Village. Next day Crow slept deeply. Ravi's rub slowly woke him. Crow stroked his head, asking if he came to wake him, mourning. Crow mumbled about warmth, wanting to sleep together again. Suddenly, Sebastian appeared, telling them to stay. Crow shot up, surprised, muttering Sebastian's name. Seabass briefed him on today's tasks. Kentucky needed a Lalabella update at the breeding grounds, and Krasama had to inspect the finished village wall. Crow nodded and rushed to the breeding grounds. They stepped outside where Diana greeted him and announced it was time to hunt. Diana urged Rose to go. Rose yelled for Diana to get off. Crost smiled awkwardly, realizing since Diana arrived days ago, Rose always radiates love. Lalibela breeding grounds. Kentucky shouted, pointing out they finally calmed the violent law of Bella Bird. Crow, surprised, asked if it was true what he'd done. He recalled male Alabella birds were more violent, healing grass only agitated it, making it breathe fire and rampage. Kentucky tried healing and detox grass. Crow realized detox grass makes antidotes, so eating it might work. Crow remembered Verdo said antidote potions sobered drunks. Since low-quality detox grass mixed with water made the antidote, Crow realized detox grass suppressed male Lalibella aggression. Kodo tells Kentucky to catch female Lalibellas for breeding. While building fireproof coops for the males, they must dodge fire breath during cultivation. Kentucky confidently takes the lead. Crow smirked, time for a new business. Seabass asked what he meant. Crow explained Lalibella meat was delicious, eggs and feathers luxury items. If they learned to raise them, villages would surely want to. Raising Lalibella birds meant growing medicinal herbs like healing and detox grass. To grow these herbs, an alchemist had to pump magic into the field. He suggested sending a Nest Village alchemist to profit from dispatch fees and fireproof rooster houses. Create the business model. Seabass agreed it was a good idea. How to put, the real issue is raising magical creatures safely outside Nest Village, so Crow suggests a test run in Red Village. The real issue is raising magical creatures safely outside Nest Village, so Crow suggests a test run in. Last time, Red Village wanted to race Bella birds indebted for delicious vegetables, and Crow insisted on helping. Seabass suggested sending Nest Village alchemists, and Crow agreed, but sent Kinaru along for backup. If the test went well, they'd report to his father, and he wanted them to propose expanding the business across El Dorado. Seabass has the permits for the Lalibella birds, but final approval depends on the test results. He agreed to consult Kinaru. Crow thanked him. The Lalibella bird breeding program hits the next stage. Near the outer walls, Crow asked Jimmy if the outer wall was complete. The swamp lizard attack drove Crow to upgrade security beyond the alchemist and golem patrols. He doubled the village walls, tasking the alchemists to build them and sharpen their skills. Jimmy confirmed the alchemist improved, easily handling the task. Gate construction went smoothly, finishing day after tomorrow. Crow thanked Jimmy, who said potions progressed well, then suddenly remembered Marika finally made an A-rank recovery potion, shocking Crow. Jimmy explains Marika brewed potions day and night without sleep. Crow finally realizes how they made so many. He told her to make sure she slept enough. Motivation was good, but rest was vital. Jimmy asked him to take care of it. Jimmy sighed and smiled, noting Marika and the other alchemists were finally fired up. Alchemists were scorned before, dismissed as mere mages only brewing potions. Cheap C-rank potions barely paid even in bulk, forcing alchemists to work side jobs just to survive. They couldn't even practice high-priced B-rank potions, a complete deadlock. Crow fell silent. Jimmy continued, saying even he, fortunate to live as a solo alchemist, still struggled financially. He clenched his fist as memories surfaced. Nearby kids gather as a girl gasps in awe. They thank the alchemist. Jimmy waves back, then someone calls his name. Invited to eat, Jimmy asked if it was all right, then thanked them gratefully. The woman giggled. He worked the fields and scouted outside. Another woman praised his relentless hard work. The village needs alchemists, San. Jimmy's eyes widen in shock. Living like this, thanked and needed, felt like a dream. He thanked Kusama for giving them hope, and Jimmy flashed a wide grin. Crow stared, glad to hear it. He saw alchemists only making potions stagnate. Guiding things well yielded the best outcome. Nest Village prospers, alchemists gain status. Perfect. Suddenly a man rushes over, shouting, Crow-sama, something terrible happened. Orcs spotted dozens of kilometers northeast, heading southwest. Crow freezes in shock. Are they raiding Nest Village? It looks like they're just gathering food for winter. Nest Village was the perfect target. Crow asked for a count, but the man said they were countless. Over 1,000 stood there as he gulped. They were fully armed and armored. They move like it's war. Crowds packed the Nest Village plaza. Crow thanks everyone for coming. He believed they'd heard, but an orc army marched toward Nest Village. Crow explained orcs were monsters like bipedal pigs. As individuals they were D-ranked, but swarming made them C-rank. Smarter generals and kings lead the charge, commanding the entire orc horde. Their weakness vanished, turning them into disciplined warriors. Crow continued, the orc king's skill buffed its whole army. The monsters' rank jumped a level, making them more dangerous, though they weren't sure if the commander was an orc king or general, but an orc king was likely. Crow warned that escaping was suicide with so many orcs nearby, so they had to fortify and face the army head-on. He urged them to fight together for survival. Though shocked, they quickly steeled themselves. Someone admitted they were terrified, but they'd do anything to survive. Another man voiced support, counting on them all. They'd defend the village to the death. The people roared in response. Crow ordered immediate prep, tasking Jimmy to lead the fortification unit. He told him to use every recovery potion necessary to finish, and Jimmy confidently accepted. Crow ordered Golem's magic restored and Marika to lead the advance. Yes, Lord Crow, she replied. Crow ordered the hunters to gather buffalo bones for weapons. They agreed, but suddenly someone called out from behind him. Crow gasped, shouting Chichikaka's name in shock. Chichikaka declared Nest Village's fall dooms Kapoka, so they'd help. Crow paused, then agreed. As battle began, he joined the villagers and told Chichikaka to have hunters supply arrows while alchemists brought potions. Chichikaka confidently left it to him, as another man called for Crow. Nor and Verdo joined, offering to help. Verdo would craft and string the bows. Crow smiled, thanking everyone. Once prepped, he'd explain the battle plan. Orcs closed in. They're already visible in the scope. Seabass tells Crow-sama everyone's ready. The moat's refinement finished on time thanks to the potions. Crow's counterattack was ready, now he just needed an opening. The goal pushed off the ground, leapt over the wall and landed firmly on the other side. Villagers gaped in shock as Crow roared they'd take them on. Everyone delivered solid results. Shouting yes. Golem's eyes flash as it charges. Orcs scream and ready their weapons. Giganto Golem charged, striking orcs down. Orcs shrieked as blood sprayed. Dust billowed around the golem, Crow thought. This golem is built different, expanding its massive spiked feet to slaughter even more orcs. Where's the boss? Crow scoped it eyes wide, that massive one, an orc general. The other orcs charge. Crow saw the flank attack coming, he yelled no. Archers unleashed an arrow volley. He lunges at the swarm, but the orcs block his strike. Sneering at the futile strike. A massive fist crashed down on an orc, smashing its face. The golem launched skyward. He slammed down hard as Jimmy roared for the defenders to keep the orcs away from the village. Golems keep smashing orc heads, one after another. Crow knew the Giganto Golem couldn't falter. They had to finish the orc general while they still had the chance. A booming command rings out. The orc general stands behind his army as every soldier instantly snaps toward the Gigantogolem. They charged in but were instantly smashed down. More orcs charged, but the Gigantogolem kicked and crushed them instantly. Orcs swarmed the Gigantogolem, scaling its massive frame like ants. The giant attacked, but their numbers overwhelmed it. Orcs stalled the golems while a panicked Jimmy screamed they were outnumbered and backup wouldn't arrive. Orcs scaled the Gigantogolem's back. The giant seized and crushed them, but another orc sneered, swinging its sword at the golem. The orc general watched the battle, then spoke gutturally. Crow cursed, "Damn, their numbers overwhelm it," pinning it down. He snapped, "Exactly. Forget moving like a human." The golem instantly spawns its body. It flung off the clinging orcs. A woman gasped in shock, another claimed the orcs vanished instantly, and Crow's face contorted as he mentally named the technique. Giganto Hurricane. The Giganto Golem spawns massive body sent orcs flying. Marika yelled to follow Krasama, ordering the golems to hold formation and advance together as another alchemist shouted back. "You order the archers to rain arrows, opening a path for the golems." The men roar back as Crow's smirks, keeping the pressure on. He yelled, "Let's go all out." The Giganto Golem's eyes flashed. Erika smirked as Sebastian watched the fight, stunned. Just then Rose and Diana charge into the fray. Villagers and lizard men rush arrows and potions as the battle rages. Golem smashed its fist into an orc's face while Sniper was still playing. Seabass and the mages unleashed spells against the horde. Giganto Golem spun like a hurricane, launching orcs into the air. Crow watched his allies advance smoothly, then scoped the enemy to track their movements. His eyes widened as he spotted a familiar face among the orcs, Chief Barjo. Barjo fumed, recalling the bitter events that led him here. He'd already told his kin about the East Forest. He heard about a massive swamp, the perfect spot to revive the Dauphin tribe. Orcs already settled the forest. His kin protested they'd never pass, but Barjo declared that was precisely why they had to gamble everything. To win, they needed that kid's power. Orcs needed massive food for winter, making a village the perfect raid target. Having tested the child's strength, he knew orc military might guaranteed victory. Everything went exactly to plan. Desperate for winter food, the orcs took the deal. With 20,000 strong, they'll easily crush those brats. Everything is falling right into that arrogant kid's hands. Trembling, Barjo cursed, this wasn't part of the plan. He never imagined a goal this massive. Behind him, a lizard man panicked, asking how to handle it. Barjo snapped, ordering them to hold firm. With 20,000 orcs, they'd win through sheer numbers. Watching from afar, Crow's face darkened. Seba saw his master's face change, asked what's wrong. Crow replied, "The orc army had a swamp lizardman. He's the one behind this disaster." His voice went silent, heavy with it. A sharp slap hit his back. Rose snapped him out of his dark thoughts, radiating defiance. The lizard man betrayed them, and now the orcs were next. She resolved to make the enemy realize who they turned against. No taking back their words or feelings, they focused on defeating the enemies. He declared coldly that the ungrateful swamp lizard man would face an iron fist. You smile as the group steals their resolve, and Crow answers the call to arms. He roared they'd crush the enemy. Rose felt satisfied he was back to normal. The plan's time was almost here. She summoned Diana and dove down to slaughter the working numbers. Diana stood ready as Crow warned them to stay safe. He ordered the alchemists to back the duo with the golem. They shouted their agreement, ready to fight. 3 orcs cornered the golem. The orc lunges, but the golem smashes its fist into his gut, crushing him. 2 more orcs flanked it, but before they struck, Rose shredded them instantly. Blood burst splattering the ground. Rose turned to the other orcs. Confident she dared them on, orcs rushed her. Diana intercepts. Diana shields Rose, who silently trusts her to handle the support. The 2 launch into enemies, striking in tandem, blades flash, bodies fall. Crow watched them fight well, but unease gnawed. He'd planned to defeat the commander with the giant golem. Moving it now shatters defenses. He froze, debating his next move. Then Robbie's voice cut through. Crow gasps at the sudden call. He bolted to Robbie. Blinding light exploded from Ravi's small body. Crow squinted, eyes straining. Magic drained into the radiance. Ravi's body convulsed as the light grew blinding. He'd frozen shot while Seabass too, wide-eyed, gasped in disbelief. Allies stared, stunned and unmoving, as the impossible unfolded from the radiance. Inside the light, Robbie swelled into a massive giant, radiating power. Everyone froze in shock, even Crow, as Ravi transformed into a massive giant. Ravi roared, howled. The others whispered in shock at Larabia's growth, questioning how it happened. Crow clenched his hand, realized Ravi grew by absorbing his magic. Ravi stepped forward, growling. Seabass draws his sword as Ravi bares his teeth. He ditched the strike and slurped Crow's face instead. His form transformed. Crow assured everyone Ravi was still the same. Everyone relaxed, Ravi groveled. Confused, Crow wondered if Ravi was ordering him to hop on for a ride to the battlefield. Seabus objected, insisting their lord can't go there. He moved to go, but Ravi shook his head, dismissing him. Crow knew Ravi wanted him gone. Despite Seabus's protests, he promised not to force it, vowing to retreat at the first sign of danger. Announced their exit. Ravi rockets forward with insane speed. Carrying Kroon returns. Crow's binoculars revealed distant orcs. He ordered Ravi straight ahead. But he saw their numbers. The massive horde caught him off guard. He aimed his air gun to blast them. Before he could act, Ravi surged ahead. Ripping through orcs. He swung but Ravi evaded. He cleared the horde, leaving Crow stunned. They spotted the work general. Final choice, enter York Steerdatham. Wait, let's try to be even punchier. Enter York Steerdatham. Wait, the input has the York. Crow dismounted. To end it fast, he channeled his refining power and unleashed Grand Needle. Spikes instantly burst from the ground, piercing through the orcs. Ravi raised his head, signaling the orc general's furious leap. He lunged at Crow, who noted the leap. The orc froze midair, hand up. Crowbone unleashed East Rise Megatron air cannon. Blast hurled the work back, a massive spike erupted, skewering the work general, ending it. Crow wipes his brow. The boss is down, finally he breathes easy. Battle raged on. Orcs stayed disciplined, confirming the Orc King's command. Crow instantly remounted Ravi. Charging in, Crow asked if Ravi sensed the king. Ravi stopped. Crow saw a figure behind orcs. Massive eyes burning with fire. The B-rank Orc King wielded the hegemony skill, synchronizing subordinate stats for 2 days of non-stop fighting, and its warriors' numbers boosted its rank to O or even S. Fighting endless orcs is deadly, and every kill only makes it stronger. Crow pressed hand to ground, unleashing refining. Spikes blast like stone bullets. Striking works, not lethal, the spell halts their advance. The Orc King lunged straight at him. It slaughtered its own army to advance, leaving Crow frozen in disbelief. He defended, chanting first key to refine Earthrent. Lightning formed a barrier, but the Orc King smashed through. He smashes the earth wall. Ravi growled, met the king's cold stare, and lunged. He sinks his teeth into its shoulder. Crow yelled as the orc raged. Ravi hurled Reviath and found his footing. The orcs blindfolded themselves, then vanished. Crow and Ravi froze, the Orc King recovered. Magic or natural healing, this demon defied expectations, and Crow realized there was more to this monster. Fully healed, the Orc King loomed over Crow. As the orcs charged, Crow saw the soldiers regrouping. He considered retreating to Nest Village, regrouping and fighting again. No, a drawn-out battle favored the orc army. They had to win here now. Ravi Beard grits his teeth as his diamond body shatters. Into shards he fired at the orcs. Shards pierced them instantly. The org crystallized. Ravi fought soldiers. Crow targeted the Orc King. The Orc King raised his blade. Crow knew if the beast closed in, he was dead. He had to keep his distance or keep taking hits. He casts Refine's Grand Needle. Spikes erupted from the ground, but the Orc King smashed right through. Crow try again, Refine. He fired the Megatron air cannon at the orc. Blast blocked. Bring back Grand Edels. Destroyed again, another strike hits. A spike pierces the orc's eye. The beast roars, clutching its face. Crow mutters, even the Orc King can't ignore an eye shot. The beast gripped its weapon, charging forward with only one eye. It cratered the earth. Ravi braced as the Orc King wrenched Crow's spike from the ground, shaking the battlefield. He swung and launched it at him. The weapon struck Crow's neck, pain surged. Ravi snarls, Crow spots the spike in his leg. He willed it out, then grabbed a recovery potion, pouring it into the wound. Ravi growls, sending something eyes wide. The Orc King swung its weapon down at them. Ravi unleashed another diamond shard barrage. They pierced the orc, but it won't fall. Ravi faced it head-on, then a sudden light swallowed him. He shrank back to his small form. Crow patted Ravi, thanking him for the fight and saying he'd done enough. He wields Ravi's ice. The Orc King lunges as Crow stands firm, chanting refining. Solush, ice spike surge, devastating the area. Shards float, then impale its skin. The war marched on unfazed. Weapon high, Crow pressed Ravi to his face. Noise made the orc snap around. Heavy footsteps echoed, a silhouette loomed. Giant charges them. He summoned Krosmold for this exact moment. It left the village defenseless, but the gamble was necessary. The Orc King froze, ditched his weapon, and bolted. Crow knew killing the Orc King would end the war. Target and Chase quickly close in. Its massive fist crushed the orc, sending it flying. Golem tracked the landing to another orc gathering. He spots the giant. Orcs abandoned weapons and scattered. Battlefield cleared, Crow gasped. He collapsed onto the ground beside Ravi. He whispered in relief, it actually worked. Crow lies still, eyes shut tight. He slowly tore him. Found Ravi silently watching, still had things to do. Lizard men march along the river. One cursed the Orc King's defeat, fearing trouble if that brat found out. Rustling trees stopped them cold. Crow stepped from the shadows, facing Balgia for the first time in ages. Crow warned, break their promise. Crow crushes him. Seeing Crow, Balgia's knees buckled. He begged for mercy, claiming the orc forced him to fight. Crow didn't react. Balgia watched him, then spotted an opening as Crow turned his back. Balgia grabs his weapon, charges to strike him. Before the strike lands, Balgia got pierced sideways. His dagger slips, clattering. Crow declares the trick won't work again. Lizard men watch in shock. Blood violently splattered. Earth spikes erupted behind Crow, paling them all, fist clenched. Crow swore he'd never lose his way again. Elsewhere, Rose fought, leaping high, blade flashing, cleaving him cleanly in half. She turned to more enemies, but her power sent them fleeing in terror. Rose and Diana spotted a massive silhouette from afar. Approaching, the crowd erupted, cheering for Crow and his golem. Some wept, celebrating an impossible win. The brothers finally exhaled as Diana burst into tears. Crow declared the battle a pursuit. Golems mount horses to drive remaining orcs into the magic forest. Rose saw him recklessly face the Orc King alone, scoffed at his audacity yet still waved. Crow returned the high five and they split. Jimmy commanded the golems to prepare. Crow signals, they mount up and the chase begins. Crow's group hunts the orcs. Felling them one by one, Crow punched one to paste. Another gut punch and the orcs fell one by one. Fear struck, eyes met. They scattered and vanished. 3,000 orcs were forced into the magic forest. Stronger demons would obliterate them. Survivors collect corpses, loading them into carts. Crow asked about harvesting the bodies for parts, but Nord suggested eating them instead. Shocked, Crow asked if work meat was actually tasty. Nord confirmed it, saying the organs and fine cuts are highly prized. For Nest Village growing with immigrants, such precious meat is invaluable. Next day, orc meat became the grand feast offering. Crows stood at the front, declaring their victory. Mughai shouts toast. The owl brother yapped while another guest slammed his mug. Claimed day drinking is best. The old man swore the stew was still the best, the perfect orc meat snack. Rose scarfed down her food. She liked the orc meat, Diana loved it, and then a powerful scent hit Rose. Curious, she followed it. Diana tags along. Decent led them to a food stall and found Crow behind the counter, crafting a new creation. He revealed a new dish served like pasta. Port bone ramen, forged from orc bones and veggies. He boiled detox grass all night to remove the odor. Infused with extracts, it became a rich soup. Topped with tender, juicy orc chasu that melts in your mouth, and a rich half-boiled lori bird egg. Crow devoured his ramen, savoring every bite. Half-cooked yolk lingered as noodles slid down. Finishing the flavor, he stood up and licked his lips. Days marked his face. Spots Rose watching. He offered Diana a taste since there was plenty left, and Rose smiled. Marika looked around and saw everyone else having a blast. Rose, Diana. Even the Owl brothers dive in, devouring the steaming noodles. Others drink alcohol. Crosset sat with Rose and Diana. He admitted the meal was delicious. Seabass nearby asked, satisfied. Croc nodded. To their shock, Seabass was the one speaking. Seabass confronted him about yesterday's reckless solo action. Crow deflected he still wanted meat. Seabass said it was fine. Seabass's companions brought Crow food after he bled fighting the Orc King, serving him a massive pile of liver. Seabass suggested talking slowly, nibbling liver. Crow's face twisted in disgust as he screamed for Rose and Diana, but neither came. He turned to Marika, she apologized. She took Crow's special potion, so he accused her of taking a bribe. Seabass pressed on, warning Crow, lifting a fork. Liver meat skewered on it, Seabass brought it to Crow's mouth. Crow bolted in terror, but Seabass stayed right on his heels.